Good morning, everyone. Right. I think this is going to be your last GS discussion. So for the last, we will try to look into your GS paper 4. Now, when you look at this year's paper, right, it was on the longer side of things. And if you compare this paper to the past PYQs, you can find the similarity with your 2022 question paper, where your earlier batchmates felt it was also a bit longer. But if you look at the questions, the themes, it's not a complete new theme as such. Your UPSC has often focused on the usage of technology in your administration and highlighted what could be the possible ethical angle associated with it. Are you understanding my point? They have also asked questions on applied ethics before as well. Here they have used artificial intelligence. Couple of years ago, they had asked about environmental ethics, which is also part of your applied ethics. Understanding my point? So when you look at all these questions, they aren't that much different. You find similarities between the themes in your past PYQ starting from 2013. Look at this question, for instance. Ethics encompasses several key dimensions that are crucial in guiding individuals and organizations towards morally responsible behavior. Now, when you look at this question and compare it with your past PYQ, you have a question where they have asked, how does various philosophies help in your decision-making processes? Understanding my point? And they have made it specific to your professional context here. So what I am trying to convey to you is this. Even though the paper is long, in terms of the themes that they have asked, there is a similarity with your past PYQs. So if a person was good with their basics, if they had good amount of arguments and they could justify it with some decent examples, they could have done well, provided they had practiced extensively when it comes to this particular topic. Alright, now let's come back. Let's start with each and every question and start our discussion process. Look at the first one. The application of artificial intelligence as a dependable source of input for administrative rational decision making is a debatable issue. Critically examine the statement from the ethical point of view. All right? Now let me simplify the question. Here they have asked about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. And they have asked you how good it is when I am applying it to rational decision making in your administrative setup. Getting my point? In your administrative setup. Right? From the ethical point of view, administrative rational decision making is a debatable issue. Critically examine the statement from ethical point of view. Now, the moment I read this question, there was a movie which came to my mind. The name of the movie was I, Robot. In this movie, you had a guy, the hero, Will Smith. He was a police detective. Okay. Now in this movie, the technology had improved so very much. Robots had become quite common in each and every household. They were being used as servants. They were used even in other domains of human life. They had become something normal. Just like how we have a mobile, smart mobile with us these days, in that movie, every household had a robot, at least one robot, which was helping their masters to improve their quality of life in every domain, in private household, in businesses, in your public administration, like this. One day what happens? Will Smith, he is in an accident, right? He is underwater. He is unable to swim to the top. In the same instance, you also have a young girl, a young girl who's also in an accident, right? In the same place as well. A robot senses this. And it has to take a decision in that instance. Either it has to save Will Smith or it has to save the young girl. It can't save both. If it tries to save both might not be able to live. So the robot takes a decision that it is going to save Will Smith only. It cannot save that young girl. Even when Will Smith says, "Forget me, save the young girl," the robot, it chooses to save Will Smith because it had calculated in its mind the probability of a person being able to leave, right? And that probability was much higher for Will Smith compared to that young girl. So it chooses to save Will Smith. It took a decision completely on rational basis. It analyzed data. It was able to use historical patterns and then figure out that Will Smith is the guy that it needs to save. But what was the problem here? When the robot acted, it did not take into consideration things or values such as compassion. Understanding my point? So when you give too much of power to artificial intelligence in decision making process, yes, it brings good amount of rationality into the process because it will analyze whatever data you put in that. It has a greater ability to analyze patterns and then take an objective or calculated decision. Understanding? It does improve rational decision making in administrative processes. If I bring artificial intelligence into my administrative processes, yes, there are a good amount of chances that we can detect corruption. All right, we can improve the quality of services. We can improve the utilization of public funds and whatnot. But when I use a bit too much of artificial intelligence, there is also a good amount of probability that compassion might be compromised. Understanding my point? So these things you can write in your answer. Along with this, what might happen? This data that we are giving to your artificial intelligence and other emerging technology, this data in itself might be biased. I remember that there was a invention made by your Google, if I'm not wrong. And in that invention, what had happened was this. They had given so much of data where these data were biased. Against whom? Against African American. All right? This had happened. And the same data, when it was given to the artificial intelligence, it took decisions keeping in mind this biased nature only. So the output of this artificial intelligence software, that also showed the same bias and racism. Understanding my point? How is this data generated? This data is generated by users, by people like you and me. And people like you and me, we do have that stereotypical mindset, that prejudiced mindset. Am I right or am I wrong? So these things. You have also heard Raman Lekka, Krishnan Lekka. So when you are giving data which is not true, it is very difficult for artificial intelligence to verify the veracity of this data. I hope you are understanding my point. Alright? So when you look at this question, I am just giving you what is the demand that they are expecting. When you look at this question, yes, bringing artificial intelligence, it brings good amount of advantages. These advantages we can use in a practical way to solve some of the issues that exist in our administrative processes. But what is the flip side of it? What is the other side of it? You will be compromising on values like compassion. You will be compromising, or there is a probability that you might go ahead and see the same bias that you're seeing in human beings with your artificial intelligence as well. And the other thing, when we talk about all these systems, administrative setup, there should be a reasonable access to artificial intelligence across multiple agents. When artificial intelligence system is in the grip of few people and not everyone else, then the justice is also violated. It is also compromised. I hope you are understanding my point. Alright? Keeping all this content in mind, how should I go ahead and try to write an answer? How should I structure my intro? How should I structure my body and conclusion? What I told you in this particular slide was basically understanding the demand of the question. That's about it. Now that you have understood the demand of the question, how should I go ahead and write my intro? This is what we have to focus. When you are writing the intro, ask yourself one very simple question. To which part of the syllabus does this topic come from? It comes from a syllabus topic called as Dimensions of Ethics. Alright? And in that Dimensions of Ethics, in particular, Applied Ethics. Okay? Again, you can connect this to one more syllabus topic called as Determinants of Ethics. Determinants of Ethics. So what are we going to do? How will we frame an introduction keeping these two syllabus topics in mind? Artificial intelligence is emerging as a prime determinant in bringing greater efficiency and effectiveness in all domains of human activities. Full stop. The intention behind using this must be right. If not, there might be a serious challenge to the ethical way of life that we expect in the world. Something of this sort. I hope you're all understanding my point. Alright? Keep in your mind determinants of ethics. Okay? Keep in mind your dimensions of ethics, the two your applied ethics in mind. And then go ahead and write a reasonable introduction. Understanding my point? Artificial intelligence is emerging as a key determinant in bringing greater progress in society. Full stop. The moral principles surrounding this artificial intelligence has to be ethical to ensure the collective welfare of society. An introduction like this would be more than enough. Alright? This is one way of giving your introduction. What is the another way of giving the introduction here? You can keep in your mind some current affairs. And then go ahead and give your introduction. So not long ago, there was a meet in Bletchley Park in United Kingdom. This summit was called by your former Prime Minister of UK, Rishi Sunak. Even India participated in that meeting. Multiple business leaders also participated in that meeting. What was the reason behind this meeting? Very simple. They wanted to evolve a good set of moral principles which could control, which could regulate how artificial intelligence is used in the present and also in the future, so as to ensure that it is not used for any nefarious or any bad purposes. This is one more way of introducing. All of you are understanding? Now let's come back. Let's look at the body of the answer. If I am using artificial intelligence in my administrative rational decision making process, what will happen? Okay, if I am using AI in administrative rational decision making process, what will happen? So you have to write few things about this. When I bring artificial intelligence into the picture, I can analyze data in a much better manner. I can detect patterns in a much better manner, and this could improve the objectiveness in our decision making process. Objectiveness in our decision making process, helping us to tackle various issues like corruption, improving the quality of services, better utilization of public funds, right? Like these things, bringing greater coordination. Understanding my point? But what will be the criticism of this? The criticism will be it can have an effect in terms of reducing employment as well. Understanding my point? It can have an impact in terms of reducing employment, because there is a very genuine concern. If we allow these emerging technologies to replace or to be used in a much greater manner, there will be some jobs which will be lost. Understanding my point? For example, if we allow drones to start serving people, you might not be in need of your Zomato, Swiggy or other types of delivery agents, right? If we allow your self-driving cars, then multiple people who are engaging as drivers for your Ola, Uber, Rapido and everything, they might not be needed. So it does create a problem in terms of employment. Understanding my point? So here, just mentioning employment will not be enough. You have to tell how this reduction in employment will have an ethical repercussion. Understanding my point? So when employment is reduced, you might see more pain and suffering in the society. That extension part you have to write. Just writing reduction in employment is not going to be enough. It is like your GS 1, 2, 3 answers. No. Reduction in employment can lead to further increase in pain and suffering. Understanding my point? That's how you are going to go about. Next, what will be the other challenges if I allow artificial intelligence in your rational decision making process? It can bring into picture bias, because the data which I am giving to artificial intelligence might itself be corrupt. Understanding my point? This you can talk about, and also you can mention those Google inventions that I told you about just a couple of minutes ago. Following me? Next, what will happen if I bring artificial intelligence into rational decision making process? It might lack the value systems that you or as a human might be more probable to follow. I gave you the example of iRobot as well. Values like what? Compassion. Understanding my point? Like this. There are multiple people who do not have access to artificial intelligence systems. Understanding my point? There are many people who do not have access to mobiles. Right? There are multiple people who do not have access to Aadhaar cards. Now, if they want to avail of some benefit from the government and the government tells them to show Aadhaar card, even though they are genuine beneficiaries, when they do not have Aadhaar card, will they be able to generate? Absolutely no. Right? What will happen when you don't have data of those millions of people? Right? Will artificial intelligence be able to detect them? Will artificial intelligence be able to be fair to them? It's not going to be possible. Right? So that fairness might also be in jeopardy, might also be compromised. Understanding my point? There have been multiple instances where Supreme Court, I remember this very famous situation when COVID-19 pandemic was happening. Okay, so in COVID-19 pandemic in Mumbai, there were ladies who were working as prostitutes, right? COVID-19 pandemic has happened. There is a huge lockdown everywhere in the country. Government comes up with multiple programs to make sure that people are not going hungry. These were much needed programs. But to avail of these programs, you required good amount of documentations, Aadhaar and everything else. But these prostitutes who had come from another area, who used to keep moving from one place to another place, they did not have it. So they could not get access to even the basic necessities. What if artificial intelligence might not be able to help them because their data is not in the system? Understanding my point? Are we not being a bit unfair to them? That's the point. Okay, like this, you can write points. And there is also one more thing. You come across these points multiple times in your newses every once in a while. That sense of privacy, is it not? That sense of privacy might be violated when you go for your artificial intelligence systems in your administrative setup. You see this happening with your private organizations as well. Your Google knows much better about you than your own best friend. Am I right? That's the problem. You know very well there have been multiple instances where Aadhaar numbers of Indian citizens have been leaked in the dark web. And almost every other week you read that people who have illegally migrated to India also have access to Aadhaar, ration card and everything else. When you push all those data into your system and you ask your artificial intelligence to take a decision in that regard, its output is something which you cannot completely trust. Are you understanding my point? So all these points could be written as to why including artificial intelligence in rational decision making process could be problematic. Right? I told you how to write an introduction. I gave you two important ways. In the body of the answer, I told you how to structure it. So if I bring AI into rational decision making process, how is it going to improve my effectiveness and efficiency? Because I can analyze data, I can detect pattern easily. Using this, I can solve problems like corruption, utilization of funds in a much better manner, like this. The next part, what will happen if we allow it? What are the various challenges which might emerge? This you have to write. Okay? After this, what should I write in the body of my answer? Here you have to write solutions. Okay? To make sure that AI is used in a rational and at the same time it is used in an ethical way as well. For those who have attended my OGP classes, I have told you, right? Whenever applied ethics comes into the picture, you can write points such as it should be designed keeping in mind beneficence. It should be designed keeping in mind holistic nature of human welfare, right? You should mention transparency, accountability for any mistakes committed. Understanding my point? These 2 points, transparency and accountability, you can include in the first part of the body of the answer where we said artificial intelligence, right? When we bring it to rational administrative processes, it does improve transparency and accountability to a certain degree. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes. You can include it there if you want. So in the next part of the body of my answer, I am going to write artificial intelligence is going to play a crucial part in future, comma, care must be taken to ensure it is used in a rational and also ethical way. The underlying principles which should determine its usage should be beneficence, holistic, transparency, accountability, all right? Okay, and it should be based on universal values. Understanding my point? And at the end, in your conclusion, okay, what is it that you're going to write? Who should have a much greater say in rational decision making process? Is it artificial intelligence or is it human being? Madam, what do you think? Human beings always. All right? Artificial intelligence is going to complement your efforts. It cannot replace you in the given setup. Understanding my point? So in the conclusion process, what you are going to write, artificial intelligence, though it improves the quality of rational decision making process, comma, an ethical moral agent and administrator is still required to ensure the fruits of artificial intelligence is used in a just manner. Okay, a point like this can be written in your conclusion. Are you all understanding my point? Simple enough. Okay, it should be complementing, it should not replace the human decision making processes that we have. And my friends, if you have time, okay, go back home and read about an individual called as Isaac Asimov. Okay, Isaac Asimov and his thoughts on artificial intelligence and usage of technology in the present 21st century. It is really going to help you with respect to 2 subjects. One is your ethics, another one is your essay. All right. Now let's go back and let's look at the second question. Madam, do you have any doubt? Pakka? Good. Now look at the second question. Ethics encompasses several key dimensions that are crucial in guiding individuals and organizations. All right. Now if you look at any paper, there will be at least one question where they ask you things like this. How does ethics promote social and human well-being? This is one of the most famous questions from your ethics paper in the last few years. Why are they asking question on this theme? See, ethics gives you clarity. What is it that you have to do in life? Ethics gives you a pathway. Are you all understanding my point? If this ethics is not there, there will be a lot of confusion, there will be a lot of chaos. Based on this theme, almost every other year there will be a question. Mark my words. Next year also there will be. 10 years down the line, every year you will have a question on this. So look at them. Ethics encompasses several key dimensions that are crucial in guiding. Getting my point? It is a bit similar to your how does ethics promote social and human well-being? How does it guide in promoting social and human well-being? Getting my point? Towards morally responsible behavior. So when I ask you what is morally responsible behavior, people might have these notions in their mind. Morally responsible behavior means being respectful to others, towards others in the society. It can be your parents, it can be your neighbors. Morally responsible behavior could be as simple as throwing your garbage in the dustbins. Morally responsible behavior could be as simple as not honking excessively. Right? When you come to my city, which is Bengaluru, you all very well know that we have a problem with our traffic. We are not denying it. Right? When we are in the traffic, you hear a lot of people losing their patience and they tend to honk excessively. Right? But if you have that basic ethics, you are going to reflect that basic ethics in a morally responsible behavior by not honking excessively. Getting my point? If you look at this question, they have asked individuals as well as organizations towards morally responsible behavior. Have they mentioned here the organization is just a public or a private one? Have they mentioned, madam? No, no. So it is both public as well as private. Which telecom operator do you use? Vodafone, Jio, Airtel. Are they giving you good service? Right? In my home, I have Vodafone and Jio. And for some reason, I don't get good response from them. Understanding my point? When you have good ethics, you are going to put customer satisfaction as your prime importance. Understanding? All of you. So when I come back to this question, the one person who comes to my mind is your J.R.D. Tata, Jamshedji Tata. When he set up a factory in Nagpur, as far as I remember, he had invested good amount of money. He had taken machines from different parts of the world. All right? And he had started a factory in Nagpur. He had also employed quite a few people. But in the initial few months, he was not getting the results that he wanted. The efficiency, the effectiveness of that factory was low. He was losing money. Right? He has got the best technology. He has done all his homework as to what should be the plan and process and everything. But still he is losing money. Then when he tries to find out what is the problem, he finds out that the people who are supposed to come to factories on a daily basis and work in a motivated, purposeful manner, they are not doing it, they are not coming. Almost every other day, you have a greater chunk of humans, the employed people over there, missing their work. Now, there were two things your J.R.D. Tata could have done. One is fire them. Another was to inspire them. Remember this. A leader never fires people. A leader inspires people in terms of doing the right things. Only in the worst of situation will a leader fire. Are getting my point? Jamshedji Tata got all the people that he had employed and he told them, you come to my work and I'm going to pay you wages better than what you're being paid in other domains of life. This was the first thing. The second thing that he told was, you come to my work and I'm going to give you incentives, bonuses. You come to my work and I'm going to take care of the education of your children when it happens. Understanding? This would not have happened if there was no ethics in him. This guided his behavior in terms of organization. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes. This is what you have to keep in your mind. Understanding? When you have ethics as an individual, when you give importance to ethics in an organization, it pushes you towards taking that morally responsible behavior in a natural manner, in an automatic manner. There is no requirement of an external regulation or monitoring. Why did they introduce ethics in your 2013? What was the necessity of this paper? Simple. Your laws, rules, regulations, your Lokayukta, Lokpal, your CBI, your Enforcement Directorate, you take any number of agency that we have in our country, they cannot be monitoring you, regulating you 24/7. The person that can regulate you better in the direction of that right or correctness is always you. Is it not? That is why they introduced this paper in 2013, because they wanted the aspiring civil servants to have that inner conscience, inner morality, which tells them what is right and wrong, which pushes them towards morally responsible behavior. That's why. It's a very beautiful question. So the first two lines I hope you have understood. Okay, look at the next three lines, how they have asked. Explain the key dimensions of ethics that influences human actions. All right, that influences human actions. Again, this dimension of ethics is a phrase which they have directly taken from your syllabus top. Okay, my advice to my students, whomsoever is listening to this as of now, whenever you go to your ethics ka syllabus, have a thorough understanding of each and every word in that. And try not only to understand them, but also apply them to what is happening in and around you. If you're not doing that, then it becomes a problem. 50% of the students, what they do is they read an ethics book, they try to understand the concept, and that's about it. They never apply it. When they don't apply it, that is when they lose. Okay, look at the next two lines. Discuss these dimensions that shape ethical decision making in the professional context. So you have almost three demands. Okay, explain the key dimensions of ethics, discuss how these dimensions shape ethical decision making in professional context. Both your first A as well as B of your first question, they talk about decision making. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes. So how will I go about answering this question? What will be my introduction? What will be my body and conclusion? That we have to discuss. Okay? That we have to discuss. Okay? Here you can go ahead and give a basic definition of ethics if you want. That is up to you. Alright? Ethics is a basic set of moral principles that guide us in ensuring the collective welfare of all sentient creatures. You can go ahead and you can write something like that. That is up to you. Okay? Or else you can write one more definition. Ethics is that set of moral principles which help us in terms of figuring the right path in achieving our goals. That is one more definition. If you want, you can write that. That is up to you. All right. If not that, what will you go ahead with? You can go and write some imagery along with definition. Ethics is like that moral compass which helps us to navigate various challenges in life. This will be your first two lines, and the next few lines you will be writing your definition of ethics. That is up to you. If not this, you can talk about a quote as to why ethics is the most important thing in terms of our world. Understanding my point? In terms of the present context, if you have any quote like that, you can go ahead and write it. Not long ago, I remember Potter Stewart had given a quote. Okay, and this was asked even in your UPSC PYQ. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. You are going to write this quote and you are going to connect it to your question in a very simple manner. This is one more. If not this, you can bring in some philosopher who has commented the importance of ethics in present times. Understanding? This could also be done. That is up to you. Can you think of any philosopher who has commented on the importance of ethics? Anyone? It can be from your Bhakti and Sufi movement as well. If you remember, from Karnataka, there was a great philosopher called as Basavanna, right? When he wrote something called as Vachana Sahitya, in his Vachana Sahitya, it is not filled with only spirituality, no. What makes Vachana Sahitya so great is, it is not only spirituality, but a lot of ethics which is there in that. If you take a state such as Tamil Nadu, during your Sangam period, you had Tiruvallavar. If you take your North India, you had people such as Ramananda, Ravidas, Kabir. And if you look at their works also, even they talk about how ethics is important in pushing not only the individual, but also the country in the right direction. Understanding? So you have all these methods of giving an introduction. As of now, when I'm having this discussion with you, I'm giving you multiple ways to introduce, to conclude. I'm explaining the structure in detailed manner. So when you're listening to me, you feel that you're understanding. Good. All right? But I'll tell you where most of the people go wrong. They listen, they listen, they listen. They never practice. When that happens, what will happen? Your mind will not work for yourself. So my advice to you is this. Take your 2013 paper and start from that until 2024. Do this brainstorming. Okay, I have a question. Explain how ethics promote social and human well-being. What are the different ways I can give an introduction, right? One is definition, next is imagery, next is quote, next is a philosopher. When you have all these things done, practiced, okay? No matter what question paper they give in the next years, let it be short, let it be long, let it be easy, let it be complicated, whatever it might be, all right? Whatever it might be, you will be able to answer them very easily. Understanding? Madam, what's your name? Hina, yes, I remember you. All right. Did you get any notification that you had a discussion today? You watched it on YouTube and you just came, is it? Right. There was no notification as such. All right. Not a problem, madam. Where are you from? Where are you from? Chikkballapura. Kannada varutta? Very good. Come back, madam. Did you understand? Good enough. So your introduction can have strategies like this. Okay. Now for the same question, in the body of the answer, please do not beat around the bush. Don't write unnecessary content which is not required. Remember, all these questions are for 10 marks. So you have to write within 2 pages. So here they have asked dimensions of ethics. Explain how dimensions of ethics help in human actions. In dimensions of ethics, if you remember, there are quite a few things. You would have studied about meta-ethics. You would have also studied about, can you tell me, applied ethics. Hello, Bhagavanta. Applied. Next. Normative. Right? It comes in normative ethics. Okay? Then you have something called as descriptive ethics. Understanding my point? And in this normative ethics, we also call it as prescriptive. Prescriptive. When you go to a doctor and you tell him, sir, I have a cold, I have a headache, right? He prescribes you certain tablets. When you take these tablets for a good amount of days, it will make you better. Right? Now this normative ethics, it gives us various prescription in terms of how our human actions should be. It prescribes. That is why it is also called as prescriptive ethics. So what am I going to write in your normative ethics? You would be studying. Tell me, Bhagavanta. Teleology. Very good. Let me start with virtue. What does virtue ethics say? Virtue ethics say that whatever human actions that you do in your life, it should showcase good character. Here they emphasize or here they prescribe that character is the most important thing to determine the rightness or wrongness of your action. Understanding my point? And there are multiple people who emphasized on character. In your Sanskrit, there is a very beautiful quote, Sheelam Param Bhushanam. They are also emphasizing on character. When you open your Ramayana, which was written by your Valmiki, over here, they talk about Rama as what? Maryada Purushottama. Maryada Purushottama means what? Character. Understanding? You have had some great leaders in our world. And you know about Abraham Lincoln. He also emphasized on the character of the leader, character of the individual. If the character of the individual is good, the character of the country will also be good. Am I right? If the character of the individual becomes corrupt, their human actions will also be wrong. And slowly, the character of the country will also be affected because of it. Right? That's the thing. So virtue helps us. It's a dimension which gives us an idea, which gives us a pathway, a purpose on how our actions should be. Like this, you have your deontology. Deontological ethics, it means duty. Understanding my point? It means duty. So if I ask you, what is your greatest duty as a son or a daughter towards your parents, it could be taking care of them. For some, it could make them feel happy. Understanding my point? If I ask you what is the greatest duty that a teacher has towards you, all right? Not students towards their teachers, teachers have towards their students, their answer could be different. In my humble opinion, a teacher should not only teach, should not only give you knowledge from an academic perspective, he or she should also focus on the holistic growth of his or her students. Academic excellence is important. At the same time, the teacher should build good, positive, optimistic attitude. The teacher is also responsible for building or increasing the emotional intelligence of his or her students. These are the duties that a teacher has. Your deontological ethics, it says those human actions which are upholding good duties, they are good. You, I, everyone, we have a duty to observe certain moral principles in a strict way. We cannot compromise on them. What could be these moral principles? These moral principles could be to be honest, is to be non-violent. Understanding my point? You have a reflection of these duties mentioned in your constitution as well in a very beautiful section called as fundamental duties. Understanding my point? If you open your DPSP, here they have mentioned certain duties that your executive, that your legislature should keep in mind while framing laws. They cannot violate these duties. Understanding my point? Like this. You can also talk about teleology, right? Bhagwanta's favorite philosophy. For those who are hearing, there is a student called as Bhagwanta. Okay? Student come colleague. So teleology means what? It's a utilitarian philosophy. People also call it as a utilitarian. So if my human action, all right, is generating the greatest happiness of the greatest number, if my human action is generating the greatest happiness of the greatest number, then such human action is correct, is good. Understanding? So even this can guide my human action. If I believe that me taking a decision is going to help 90 out of 100 people, your teleological people will say, okay, fine, that human action is good, go ahead and do it. Right? There is much more depth to it, but I'm trying to explain to you in a simple manner. How does various dimensions of ethics guide us in our human actions? I'm just telling you that. You have virtue, you have deon, you have teleological ethics. You can also write care ethics if you want. Okay? There is one more called as care ethics. What do you do in this care ethics? Here, you basically focus on values such as love, care, and compassion. Alright? When you're trying to focus or trying to help others. If my human actions is caring for someone else, it can be a human being, it can be a plant, it can be an animal, then such human actions are correct. You have your Florence Nightingale, you have your Salu Marada Timmakka, you have your Jadav Payang. All of them are prime examples of your care ethics. When India gave humanitarian assistance to Turkey, even though Turkey had taken very strong position against India vis-a-vis your Pakistan issue, India did not hesitate. When Turkey had earthquake, India was one of the first few countries to send its humanitarian assistance along with few soldiers to help Turkey in its rescue and rehabilitation efforts. What were we showcasing here? Care ethics. It guided our human actions. Are you understanding my point? So this is what you're going to write. In the first part of the body of the answer, okay, if you look at the question carefully, explain the key dimension of ethics that influence human actions. This have we covered. Explain the key dimension of ethics that influence human action. That is what I have covered using all those normative theories. Look at the next two lines. Discuss how these dimensions shape ethical decision making in the professional context. In the professional context. Right? Bhagavanta, what do you want to be? IAS or IPS? Madam, IAS or IPS? Indian Foreign Service, bedwa? Okay. Let us say you are taking up all these professions. Alright? You are becoming an IAS, some are becoming IPS and all these kind of things. So you are in this profession, how does it help you? How does these theories, how does these dimensions help you in your professional context? That is what they are asking. Imagine you are working for media. When you are working for media, what is your greatest duty if you are working for a media channel, Bhagavanta? Yes, truth. So the moment I say duty, which comes to your mind? Which theory comes to your mind? Is it virtue, deon, teleological or care ethics? Deontological. Understanding my point? When I apply these dimensions of ethics to my professions, how will I use it? Sorry. How will I use it? It will give me a good foundation. Understanding my point? When I apply this dimension of ethics in my professional context, what are the other benefits, advantages I will get? It will help me in my interactions. Okay, if I am a leader who has good character, do you think people will trust me or do you think people will distrust me? Trust me better. Understanding? If I showcase good character, my own employees will also trust me. So that interactions helps you. Understanding my point? If you are a leader with good character, you are going to make sure in that organization that work culture is very good. That blame game that happens, that gossiping that happens, the politics, internal politics, all those kind of things will be eliminated or will be minimal at best. Understanding my point? If I am an organization, apart from my employees, I will also treat the customers with whom I interact in a good way. Understanding my point? Imagine your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi, madam, right? You have set up your factories and you have ethics, you have these dimensions of ethics. Will you care for the environment or will you not care? You have to care. Understanding my point? When I apply these dimensions of ethics in my professional context, there will be a larger application of care, not only for humans, but also extending to environment. Right? I hope all of you are understanding. Okay, now give me just one more domain where you can apply those dimensions of ethics in your professional context, in your decision making. right? Can I say even in hiring people, you will apply this, even in hiring people? Yes, your UPSC had asked a quote which was given by none other than your Warren Buffett at one point in time. Warren Buffett had told, in hiring people, you have to look for certain things. He had mentioned the parameters. I forgot the exact quote. But he says, if you are hiring a person and that person does not have integrity, does not have ethics, whatever else he has is absolutely useless. If a person does not have integrity, don't go ahead and hire him, because he or she is going to be a problem. Your UPSC had given one more very beautiful quote asking for you to interpret it. What was that quote? A man without ethics is a beast, is a wild beast loosed upon this world. If you do not have ethics, either in your personal or at an organizational or professional level, right? You will be employing this wild beast which will destroy you, if not in the short term, but in the longer term for sure. There is no probability here, for sure. So understanding my point? My friends, whenever you see a question, okay, please be careful and then try to structure your answer. Ethics encompasses several key dimensions that are crucial in guiding individuals and organization towards morally responsible behavior. These two statements they have given within inverted commas. I've told you how to give an introduction. Am I right? That part is done. When you go to the body of the answer, you are going to justify this. Okay, you will give one example as to the ethics that guided an individual in morally responsible behavior. Take some common example. If I have ethics, will I keep on honking? If I have ethics, will I use my personal vehicles for each and everything? No. I have justified that. If I have ethics at an organizational level, how will it guide me in morally responsible behavior? I will take care of my employees. I will take care of my customers. Have I given you any example related to that? Tatas, right? Fine, that is done. Okay, after that, you have to go to the next demand. Explain the key dimension of ethics that influence human actions. Right? In ethics, human actions, it refers to that concept where you're taking a decision where you have free will. No one is forcing you. No one is pushing you. No one is pressurizing you. That is what we call as human action. Okay. So explain the key dimensions of ethics that influence human actions. I've told you quite a few. Yes or no? You can bring your meta-ethics also into the picture if you want. Moral objectivism, moral subjectivism, right? But 4-5 diverse points to explain that is more than enough. And next, you have one more demand. Discuss how these dimensions shape ethical decision making in the professional context. That also I have explained. What is professional context? Your mind should quickly try to simplify this. Whenever I start evaluating answers on a daily basis, minimum some 15 to 20 answers I will be evaluating of my students. 15 to 20. Okay, minimum. Sometimes more than this. Where my students go wrong is this. Whenever they see these terminologies like professional context or they see these statement within inverted commas, they don't justify it. They don't simplify it. They assume that the evaluator knows what it is and they just go ahead and start writing it. Don't go for that. Okay. If you have ethics, all right, if you have these dimensions of ethics shaping your ethical decision making, how will your work culture be in a professional setup? Good or bad? It will be good. How will be your professional setup in terms of utilization of funds? Good. How will be your quality of services when you have ethics in your professional context? Again, good. Okay. Like this, how will be the foundation of your organization or your professional career? Strong. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam very famously said at one point in time, if you bow down your head to your work and you sincerely do it, you don't have to bow down to anyone else in your life. Okay. But we as Indians, we do the opposite. We bow to multiple people rather than work. That's why we get into quite a bit of trouble. So how will I write my conclusion here? Simple. In case if you have not given any quote in your introduction, in the conclusion you can give a quote. A man without ethics is like a wild beast loosed upon this world. Okay, within inverted commas, you will write this. To ensure ethics exist, okay, to ensure ethics exist, moral education at an earliest possible level is the need of the hour. Like this you can write. In case if you feel that it is way too long, there was a guy called as John Locke. Okay. Now John Locke, he wrote a very beautiful book. Okay. The name of that book is Some Thoughts Concerning Education. You can mention this. John Locke, in his famous book, Some Thoughts Concerning Education, believes that moral education needs to be introduced in the school curriculum at an earliest possible instance, okay, to ensure the overall growth of a student. Full stop. NEP, National Education Policy, do you all remember? Yes. Even that has a dedicated provision with respect to this moral education. Okay? So that part also you can write. That is up to you. Okay? Come back. Now, look at the second question. Look at the second question. It is not enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it is not enough to believe in it, one must act upon it. So here what are they saying? Talking is not enough. You have to believe in it. Multiple times what happens, people, they talk a big game. Hey, I am like this, I am like that. I do these things and everything. But when you analyze their character, their personality, you know they are nothing but bol bachan. They talk and talk. They don't believe it. Hey, this is not how the real world works. There are multiple times my own students have come to me and said, sir, you're teaching ethics, good enough. But all the ethics that you're teaching is within the classroom only. Outside world is different. Okay. Here what are they doing? They think ethics is nothing but bol bachan. Understanding my point? It can be peace, it can be courage, it can be justice. It is not enough to talk about justice. One must believe in it. It is not enough to talk about courage. One must believe in it. Right? When you are learning ethics, it should not be just few things that you are learning from your standard books. Okay? No. You should believe in it. That is what this paper setter is asking you to analyze. I have had many students who have written mains. After they have written mains, they come back to me and say, sir, this time I'm going to score very well in ethics. I feel happy. But very few of them end up scoring good marks in ethics, your 130s and 140s. The reason is this. Those who score 130 and 140, they not only talk about it, but they try to believe in it and they also try to act upon it. Understanding my point? That's the thing. Okay. It's a very beautiful question that your paper setter has asked. Look at the next. This is within your inverted commas. In the present context, the major weapon industries. Forget the other part of the question. Let me just focus on this one statement. The moment you read this, can you think of anyone who not only spoke but believed in the words that they were speaking and even acted upon it? Can you think of anything? Very good, Bhagavanta. Right? So he's mentioning about a company called as Atlas, which used to manufacture weapons during your World War. But when they saw what was happening in the World War, the destruction their products was bringing, they switched over to cycles. Good one, reasonable. If I think about this statement, Ashoka, very good, not a problem. Your Ashoka at one point in time, madam, he was called as Chanda Ashoka. Why was he called as Chanda Ashoka? Because he believed in something called as Bheri Gosha. Bheri Gosha, for those who don't know, it means violence. Alright? He killed his own siblings to come to power. Bheri Gosha. He believed in it. He acted on it. And when he went ahead and he involved himself in Kalinga war, that was the first instance in his life where he saw violence at a much larger level. He has even described this in your edicts, if you remember very well. His mind was not at peace. Okay, he wanted solutions to overcome all this guilt, to overcome all this confusion. That is when he decided to shift from that Bheri Gosha, which is violence, to Dhamma Gosha, which is non-violence. And when he adopted Dhamma Gosha, he did not only talk about it, he believed in it. And at the same time, he acted upon it. Okay? When your thoughts, words and actions are on the same level, then progress will happen. It might be individual progress or it might be collective progress. When that does not happen, you get into trouble. Am I right? Ashoka is a good example. Good. Other than that, Lal Bahadur Shastri also comes to my mind. There were quite a few railway accidents that had happened. Alright. And Lal Bahadur Shastri, even though no one asked him to resign, he believed that moral responsibility should lie with the leader. He took that moral responsibility on himself and he even acted upon it and he resigned as the railway minister. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes. The moment you read any question, statements like this, try to think of few examples, few individuals or even organizations who have done these things. Understanding my point? Right. Now let's go to the next part of the question. In the present context, the major weapon industries, okay, the major weapon industries of the developed nations are adversely influencing continuation of number of wars for their own self-interest all around the world. All around the world. Any major weapon industries that you can think of? Adu country adu kanam. Weapon industry I am asking. Any specific ones? Okay. Okay. That's all. Right? Let it be. In case if you are unable to think of any major weapon industries, it is fine. Alright. Move ahead. Or the developed nations are influencing continuation of number of wars for their own self-interest all around the world. What are the ethical considerations of the powerful nations in today's international arena to stop continuation of ongoing conflicts? What are the ethical consideration of nations? Are they mentioning industries here? Nations they are mentioning today in international arena. Ask yourself from which syllabus it is. Which ethics syllabus it is from, madam? You're a beginner, I know. Okay, Paganta? There is a syllabus in your ethics called as ethics in IR. Ethics in IR. Okay, that question is pertaining to ethics in IR. Okay, if I was writing an answer to this question, I will write about the moral duty that each and every country has to do what at the global level now? To push for individual self-interest or to be altruistic. You know what is altruistic? Being selfless. Putting others' interest first. Are you understanding my point? So if I was writing an answer for this question, I would write, every country has a moral responsibility and duty to ensure that the global affairs are conducted in such an ethical manner that creates collective happiness rather than perpetuating wars which cause nothing but hatred and pain and suffering. Are you all understanding my point? Simple. If you open your polity, your DPSP, if I remember correctly, The last of your DPSP, it tells what? What should India do at the international forum? Peace. Yes, very good, madam. International peace. I have kept that in mind and I have just used other words, other statements and written an introduction bringing ethical terminologies in it. That is it. Nothing more than that. Following me? Now when I go to the body of the answer, I will be writing these major weapon industries are not acting on their self-interest alone. See, self-interest is fine, sir. Okay, in ethics, self-interest is fine, not a problem. So long as my self-interest is not causing any harm to other interest. Self-interest is fine. I am disagreeing with the question and I am saying these major weapon industries are not acting based on their own self-interest, but rather on their selfishness. This is very bad in your ethics, selfishness. It is the selfish nature of major weapon industries which is perpetuating the cycle of violence and hatred in different parts of the world. Full stop. Iran, Israel, comma, Russia, Ukraine. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? Then weaponization of your space as well. Can I write that? Space, weapon wars, etc. Like this. After this, okay, then I will write role of nation, ethical role of nation in this regard. Ethical role of nation in this regard. Okay. Ethical role of nation in this regard. All right. Remember this. When I have handled ethics, when I have had the opportunity to handle ethics for a few batches at Insights here, I taught them. All right. Whenever any question is asked on international relations, you have to remember few parameters. You have to remember few dimensions. What are these dimensions? It could be your human rights framework. Every country has an ethical role in ensuring that human rights are upheld. Understanding my point? So this will translate to, let us say I am USA, right? I should not poke my nose in someone else's business. I should not violate their sovereignty. Am I right or am I wrong? Yeah, absolutely. Because if I poke my nose using CIA and whatnot, then the human rights of that particular country might be violated. And at the same time, if there is violence happening against any community outside, if there is anything similar to a genocide happening, every country has a role to make sure to speak up against it. Understanding my point? When we look at your Myanmar, what is that community they're trying to harm? Rohingyas? Yes. If you look at China, they are trying to harm your Xinjiang region, the Muslims, the Uyghur Muslims, right? People have an ethical role. Many a times India is criticized because it is being silent, it is not talking about all these things. That is wrong. If you have observed our Prime Minister when he met Vladimir Putin, he told him, in front of Vladimir Putin, our Prime Minister told, this is not the age of war. When our Prime Minister went to Russia not long ago, both of them are sitting together, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also your Russian President Vladimir Putin, where he says, in wars when innocent children are killed, it pains everyone. You can go ahead and you can confirm if you want. Understanding my point? So every nation has a role to play. India is trying to play its role in the best way possible without harming its self-interest. Understanding my point? It is not trying to be selfish. Following me? So from a human rights framework, every country has a role. Then what is the other ethical consideration? One is your human rights framework. Okay? One is your human rights framework. Another happens to be your deontological framework. What does deontological framework say? every country has a duty, all right, to ensure international peace and security is upheld. Like this, you can write utilitarian. Every country has to conduct its international business in such a manner that it leads to greatest happiness of the greatest number. Understanding my point? Go back to this question again. What are the ethical considerations of the powerful nations in today's international arena to stop continuation of ongoing conflicts? Ethical consideration. What are these ethical consideration of parameters it should remember? Human rights, deontological, utilitarian, care ethics. Because in war there is always going to be collateral damage. And when I say collateral damage, it includes your common people, innocent children, women. If you look at what is happening between Israel and Palestine as of now, okay, there have been multiple children and women who have been harmed. These are not my arguments. Even your global organizations such as your UNICEF, if I remember correctly, have sadly commented upon it, the existing state of affairs. That also you can write. Okay, each and every powerful country has to keep these ethical considerations in their mind and then go about tackling the present situation. If not, this situation will go on perpetuating violence. Understanding my point? There is one more called as just war theory. Okay, there is one more called as just war theory. What happens in this just war theory? They're saying not all wars are bad. Some wars are justified. And they're giving you parameters that you should follow in your warfare to ensure that there is ethics upheld even in that scenario. They're giving you certain ethical principles even in a scenario where there is a war. Here they are saying you should make a clear distinction between combatants and non-combatants. And you should not harm non-combatants at all. Understanding my point? Even this could be an ethical consideration that your powerful countries should keep in mind to stop continuation of ongoing conflicts. Remember this, when you are harming a non-combatant, when you are harming an innocent person, there will be multiple terrorists who will be created just because of that incident. Don't harm innocent people as much as possible. Not what I am saying, your just war theory is saying. So what are the ethical considerations? You're going to write this. Along with this, you can write, in my classes I have mentioned cosmopolitan ethics. Okay, our Prime Minister, he very famously likes to use this very beautiful phrase from your Maha Upanishad, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The whole world is my family. Right? In the present times, if any of your family member is going through a problem, people usually feel happy. Sadistic people they all are. Okay? But when we talk about, or when we say Vasudeva Kutumbakam, it should not be just talk. You must believe in it. And it is not enough for you to believe in it, you should act upon it. And that's what India is trying to do. Am I right? Yes, that's the thing. You can also mention your ancient Indian philosophies here. Okay. You must be remembering Gandhiji, he gave a very beautiful concept called as Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya means what, sir? Welfare of all. Very good. Then you have something called as Antyodaya. Antyodaya means what? Antyodaya means growth, welfare of the most marginalized section in the society. This Antyodaya concept was given by Deen Dayal Upadhyay. You can also mention these things as ethical considerations that your powerful countries should keep in mind to stop what is happening in international relations now, to stop it. Because when war is happening, the marginalized sections are the most affected. Am I right? Yes. That's the thing. All of you are following my point? So come back here. Okay. So here I have given you how to go ahead and start an introduction. Am I right or am I wrong? I've also told you how you should write various ethical considerations that your powerful country should keep in mind while trying to stop it, while trying to tackle it. So when I'm saying deontological duty, you can bring your United Nations Security Council here. That United Nations Security Council, has it been doing enough as of now? No. Okay. When I'm talking about care ethics, you can give example of some good organizations, not for profit organizations such as Doctors Without Borders. Do you remember them? Red Cross, do you remember them? You need to assist them to rehabilitate, to rescue those people who are being affected. When I'm saying, right, you should not violate the sovereignty of other countries, you should think of India's Panchashil principles. Do you remember this? During whose time Panchashil principles came into the picture? Jawaharlal Nehru. You're going to even mention that. So am I giving arguments, only arguments in my classes, or am I giving you examples as well? Examples. Both of them should be there. There should be a balance between arguments as well as examples. What will be your conclusion for this? You tell me. What will be your conclusion for this? In my classes, right, I beg your pardon, most of the times I'm going back to my classes. I'm not trying to market myself. Okay? But some of my students who have heard of these classes, I want them to go back, revise, remember, and try to write it. What basic content is required to write answers will always be there with you. There was a lady called as Jane Addams. Now she gave a very beautiful quote. Justice is not just the absence of war. It is the presence of peace. Understanding my point? And here when I'm writing about this question, am I just writing that war should be discontinued, or am I writing that even peace should be there? Yes. You can put the quote of Jane Addams. If I remember correctly, she was also a Nobel Prize winner. So you can mention these things and then you can go ahead and conclude your answer. Understanding my point? This is for your second question. Second question, first subpart. Okay, look at the next one. Global warming and climate change are the outcomes of human greed in the name of development, comma, indicating the direction in which extinction of organisms, including human beings, is heading towards loss of life on earth. How do you put an end to protect life and bring equilibrium between society and environment? It's a very simple question. What have they mentioned here? Global warming and climate change. Do you think we are witnessing global warming and climate change for the very first time in the present days, or have we witnessed it before as well? Before as well. But before it was more of natural reasons. Now when it is happening because of what? Natural or human reasons? So we are going to write in the introduction, anthropological reason. Okay? Anthropological or human activities are the main reasons causing global warming and climate change, pushing multiple species into the threat of extinction. Understanding my point? That you can mention. But there is a problem with this introduction. It sounds more like GS3. Okay? And I'm not happy when you're giving introductions which seems like a GS1, 2, 3. You have to give an introduction which is more of ethics. When you're treating anyone, it can be your parents, it can be people that you were in relationship with, right? In any capacity, teacher, student, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it might be. When you're treating someone in a very greedy way, are you looking at them as an end in themselves or as a means? Tell me. When you're treating someone in a greedy way, let us say I am friend with a person because that person is going to help me whenever I need. Am I treating them as an end in themselves or as a means? Tell me. Means. We are treating our environment as a means these days. That is what is making us look at them in a very, very greedy manner. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes. So using this idea, I am going to write an introduction. The present anthropological or human activities looks at environment as a means to satisfy their selfish ends. Do you want me to slow down so that you can write? Slow down. Okay. See, this is why democracy does not work. The anthropological or human activities in the present times looks at environment as a means to satisfy our selfish ends, to satisfy our selfish ends, thus creating greed, which in turn gave rise to global warming and climate change. Right? I have just discussed few questions as of now, and in all my introductions, have I repeated the question or is it unique? Unique, na? Please remember that. Some of the times when I evaluate my students' answers, what they usually tend to do is just repeat the question in a different way. Okay? If you are repeating the question, I don't see any value that you are adding in the introduction. So I will not be giving you much marks. Whenever students come to evaluation, there are instances where I've given them just 1.5. Okay? Your UPSC also has a habit of doing it. So please be careful. There are individuals who have scored 140 in their ethics paper, and there are individuals who have scored 80 as well. Huge difference. Why there is a huge difference? Those who are scoring 140 in their ethics paper, they make their answers unique. They make their answers appear ethical rather than GS1, 2, 3. Okay, and this does not come only with you listening, only with you reading. This comes with you writing, and writing extensively. Every day practice some 2 to 3 questions and you write. And in case if you are in Bangalore, and even if you are a non-OGP student, you are very much welcome to come and meet me at our Insights headquarters. There is no bar. Okay, you can come and get few of your answers evaluated. Meet me. All right, that's the thing. Now come back. Look at this one. Indicating the direction in which extinction of organisms, including human beings, is heading towards loss of life on Earth. So in my introduction, I've given a unique one. So that's done. So here they have mentioned extinction of some animals as well as human beings, threat to human beings. Can you think of any example where we have lost some organisms, some plants because of this global warming and climate change? Can you tell me? Anything? Any animal? Any plant? Sorry? Great Indian bustard. Yes. And it's also in news. You don't have to feel embarrassed to share that. It's a good one. Even Supreme Court has commented on Great Indian bustard for quite a few times in your judgments. Yes. So you can write it. The Great Indian bustard is facing severe threat to its survival because of anthropological activities in terms of setting up all these power supply chain. Am I right or am I wrong? You will just justify it. Similarly, sparrows. Do we see sparrows in our cities these days? No. When I used to go back to Shimoga, right? Almost every other day, you had your sparrows coming inside the home as well. Okay. But now when I go back and see, these sparrows are not there much. When you look at your newspapers, almost every other week, you hear that there is a man-animal conflict which is happening. A bear is coming to a city. A rhinoceros is coming to some part of an Assam city. Then you have your elephants, right? Destroying farms. All these things are happening. Why is this happening? Global warming, climate change, human activities have destroyed the basic necessities that these animals require in their forest. Hence, they're coming to these cities. Am I right? So similarly, various man-animal conflicts you're going to write. All right. Now they're asking, how do you put an end to protect life and bring equilibrium between the society and environment? This is the most beautiful. Usually, people who score around 80 to 90, right? The mistake that they make is that their answers are GS1, 2, 3. That's why they lose. When they're asking you measures to find this equilibrium, what will you write? Okay, I can think of doctrine of trusteeship. Who gave this doctrine? Who gave this doctrine? Any idea? Go ahead, Bhagwanta. You know the answer. Nen bartilva. Options kodla. A is Gandhi, B is Patel, C is Nehru, D is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Who is it? Doctrine of trusteeship. Gandhi. Ashte. Now, what did Gandhi say? Gandhi basically said this. You, when you are leaving as of now, you have access to so many resources. Am I right or am I wrong? Let us say I have access to this water bottle and I require only a bit of it. I don't require the whole one. I have to act in such a way where I'm using my share of that water bottle, and whatever extra is there, I should not waste it. I'm holding on to this extra water which is there as a trustee. As a trustee, I should maintain this, conserve it, safeguard it for the future generations. Gandhi very beautifully said, the earth has everything to meet everyone's needs. It has everything to meet the needs of everyone, not at all a problem. But it does not have enough things to meet the greed of people. Am I right or am I wrong? People are so greedy these days. They buy cars. They buy bikes. They use so many resources where the mileage of these cars is so very little. Okay. Am I right? That is the thing. Right? That's the stuff. Indians usually, most of the Indians, when they buy cars, they go with cars which give you good mileage. People who are going for all these supercars and everything, they know that their cars do not have mileage, but still that status symbol exists. Now, you have seen that. Doctrine of trusteeship. When the doctrine of trusteeship is implemented at an individual angle and at an organizational angle, we will care for our resources in a much better manner. We will. And when this happens, that equilibrium will come naturally to us. Am I right or am I wrong? That is the thing that you are going to write. Okay, is this a GS1, 2, 3 answer or is it an ethics answer? That is what I want. What else can I write? How will I bring measures? Look at this one here. Emotions. Feel. Treat everything as an end in themselves. Yesterday when I was discussing essay in the class, I told, okay, in the class I mentioned that our forefathers, when they looked at the forest, they looked at forest as if it was an end in themselves. They had that emotions, they had that feel for their forest, for their resources. But now when we come, we look at these things not in a very emotional perspective. We don't feel for it. We don't look at it as an end. That is why we are losing. When I start looking at it as an end in themselves, okay, that is when that compassion comes into the picture, when I start to feel for it. Understanding my point? I've seen many people, there was a social experiment which was done, okay? There was a social experiment which was done not long ago. This social experiment involved a guy. Now he had adopted a pig, okay, a pig. The pig was very cute. He started making videos on a daily basis. And the name of that YouTube channel, if I remember correctly, Bacon at 100 days. Right? Bacon is made using your pig meat. In the initial days, when he started posting pictures and videos of this pig, it became viral. Many people subscribed to his YouTube channel. Understanding my point? They all thoroughly loved it. Usually when we use YouTube, we'd like to look at the cute innocent photos of dogs, cats, sometimes cute innocent babies as well. Yes or no? So many people started watching it. His YouTube channel became viral. One day they're watching it, second day they're watching it, third day they're watching it. He's feeding that pig anything and everything. He's taking good care of it. But what is the name of that YouTube channel? Bacon at 100 days, something like that. Okay. He's going to kill that pig at the 100th day. As the 100th day is coming nearer, people are posting on his YouTube video, okay, please don't kill the pig, take good care of it, don't kill 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 it. On the 100th day, he does not show any pig video at all. What do people think? He has killed it and he has had bacon. He shows a picture of bacon. So they think that it is none other than his pet which he has killed. People feel very sorry. People are angry at him. People are threatening him. Then he tells them, no, I have not killed my pig. It is still alive. Don't worry. This was a social experiment that he conducted to tell people vegetarianism is good. When you start feeling for the animal that you are going to eat, okay, you yourself will automatically become a vegetarian. You won't be a non-vegetarian. Understanding my point? But you know our country. Okay, we are vegetarians only on selective days for most people. Some people are vegetarians on Monday. Some are vegetarians on Saturday. I have seen that. Okay, some are non-vegetarians on every other day. So when I say you have to make people feel, you have to make people have compassion for these resources that we are having. Are they renewable resources or non-renewable? Renewable. Okay, you have to make them feel. When I read the poetry of Kuvempu, I see a lot of nature in it, right? And when I read his poetry, I feel for the nature. And since I am from the Western Ghats region, the Shimoga region, when I was growing up, the kind of nature that we had over there was extremely beautiful, serene, peaceful, calm it was. But now when I go back and see the Western Ghats, there is a lot of unsustainable tourism. Where trees were there, where animals used to come for water, we have built human structures. Okay, that is why in your Western Ghats, in your GS3 paper, you have studied about two committees. Can you tell me which are these two committees? Kasturi Rangan and Gadgil Committee. You don't require these two committees. Go and ask someone in Western Ghats, what is it that you want? Most of them will say, sir, we want to conserve our nature. Where forests were existing, now if you go to that Western Ghats, you see rubber plantations, you see estate, where they have very brazenly taken over forest areas. Getting my point? Greed. But when I make a person feel for these resources, they will treat it as an end in themselves. Compassion will be natural. This is what you are going to write. Understanding my point? How will I bring again a balance, an equilibrium between your development and your maintenance of resources? I've given you 2 points. If possible, give me few more. If not, I myself will give you. Tell me, what will you write? How to bring that balance? How to bring that balance? Go ahead, sir. Sustainable development. If you're writing this, this is good, not a problem, right? But you have to bring an ethical angle to it. If not, it becomes quite problematic. You have to bring an ethical angle. What ethical angle will you bring? Can you think of anyone? Can you think of anyone or any measure that we have where we are trying to balance both development as well as your environmental conservation? Remember. Good. Good. Not a problem. Good. But how will I mean, how many questions will I repeat the same thing? It becomes repetitive, na? So here I will write, look at that question, have they mentioned it to be specific to India or have they mentioned that you can use anywhere? Look at the question. Global warming and climate change, equilibrium between society and environment. Have they mentioned anything like that? Specific to India? No, na? So here I can say everyone has a moral responsibility. Everyone has a moral responsibility to conserve nature without compromising on development. So whenever your United Nations, your UNFCCC negotiations happen, okay, what is the stand taken by India? What does it say? Do you remember? Your India says in all your climate change agreements that there should be common but differentiated responsibilities. Understanding my point? The developed countries cannot put way too much burden on the developing countries because whatever global warming and climate change we have witnessed in the last few decades, the primary reason for them are your developed countries, not your developing. This is what we call as common but differentiated responsibilities. This idea was there in my mind. That idea I have extended. Everyone has a moral responsibility to conserve nature without compromising on development. Understanding my point? Yes. What is the other thing that we have to keep in mind while framing laws? While framing laws, what is it that we have to keep in mind so that there is a balance between development as well as conservation of nature? Tell me. Tell me. What are the other things? I have given you 3 points. I need few more points from your side. Second point, treating environment as a god or as an end in themselves, that will be your second point, Bhagavanta. Okay, we will not go for that. We will not repeat points. What could be other things that we could keep in mind to increase that equilibrium or that balance between human development and your environmental conservation? Government laws, okay. Yes, law making is good. This law making will be done keeping only human in mind or even environmental conservation? Environmental. So when you are writing here, okay, so here you will write law making process will include even your plants and animals as sentient creatures. Sentient creatures. Understanding? We are not going to forget them. Following my point? And I need one more point so that it becomes that perfect 5 measures equilibrium. There should be help. Understanding my point? Yes, help. Band. Sarina. So when we are talking about help, right? Let us say Madam Hina over here is fighting for that environmental conservation. If she alone is fighting, will change happen? You require support, you require help. We can use technology so that there is development and at the same time that technology we are using for environmental conservation as well. Understanding my point? Right? Apart from this, you have your developed countries. They can help the developing countries in terms of financial resources and also technological resources to not only bring human development but also environmental conservation. Yes?
We can put in environmental friendly education system also.
Yes. You can do that. Not at all a problem, right? Changing our curriculum to include environmental related lessons, right? Your Chipiko, Apiko movement, you remember all these things. Yes, you can talk about it. Then you have a community which takes care of black bucks. Do you remember the name of that community, Bhagavanta? Bishnoi community. So we can have lessons about communities like this. Yes, yes, not at all a problem. It's just that you have to give a measures to maintain an equilibrium between development and also your environmental conservation. Understanding my point? Right? You can use technologies to prevent people felling trees in forest areas. Right? Because when you're felling trees in forest areas, it is leading to deforestation. You can use technology, your drones and everything to monitor, right? Unnecessary encroachment of forest areas, killing of animals, all these things can be made possible. Not at all a problem. You can use technology to make sure that no major organization or any organization for that matter is polluting environment over and above what permission they have been given. So when you do all these things, there will be an equilibrium. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes, that is the thing. So if we have written 5 to 6 points, all of these 5 to 6 points are diverse in themselves. So that's not a problem. So your introduction is done, your body is done, and now we have to write about conclusion. So what will we write in the conclusion? Yes, yes, yes. Indian culture or Indian society we will write. Indian cultural ethos emphasizes on Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu, which encompasses each and every sentient creatures. Okay? Full stop. It is the need of the hour to internalize this belief not only in our thought process but also in our actions. Good enough, Bhagavanta. Not at all a problem. Okay? So for first two questions, I have told you how to write an intro, body and conclusion in detail. For the next remaining section A questions, I am going to tell you in a brief way. Understanding? Not in such a detailed manner as I did in the last couple of minutes. Because I have to discuss few case studies as well. Look at your third question. It is completely having your quotations. Look at the first quotation. What have they asked? Given below are 3 quotations of great thinkers. What do each of these quotations convey to you in present? They're asking you specifically, what does each of these quotations mean to you in present context? Sometimes in your PYQs they will give what does it mean to you. So when they ask you what does it mean to you, you can talk from your present, past and also future. But here they have specifically mentioned present context, so you have to be careful. Learn everything that is good from others. Learn everything that is good from others, but bring it in. And in your own way, absorb it, do not become others. This is a quote given by Swami Vivekananda. Learn everything that is good from others. Bring it in. And in your own way, absorb it. Do not become others. Swami Vivekananda, he has given this quote. Whenever I am teaching my students, I tell them, the moment you see a quote, you have to ask yourself which value it is teaching you. What are the values it is teaching you? What is its main important thing which it is trying to convey to you? Be the change that you want to see in the world. What is this quote teaching you, given by Gandhi? What is this quote teaching you? You should have the capability to act on your own advice. You should have the courage to act on your own advice and change. If you are not changing yourself, if you are not listening to your own advice, why will anyone else listen? So here, when Swami Vivekananda is telling you, learn from others, take whatever good things is there from others, but do not become them. What is he trying to tell you? Is he telling you to be just like others, have a group mentality, or is he telling you to be unique? He is telling you to be unique. Understanding my point? So you will keep this idea in mind, and then you will write a introduction. Swami Vivekananda, a great spiritual and moral thinker, emphasized on developing open-mindedness. Where we learn from others, to improve our own moral reasoning. To improve our own moral reasoning and personality. And personality. But at the same time, add our own values. Add our own values. Add our own values so as to be unique. So as to be unique. So as to be unique. And further, the extent of human knowledge. And further, the extent of human knowledge. Understanding my point? So like this. Following me. Learn from others. I am teaching you ethics. When you open YouTube, there are many people teaching you ethics. I am no one to claim that I am better than all of them. Right? If I am saying some good things to you, listen to it. If others are saying some good things to you, listen to them. Take all these good things from others and try to add your own value. That is when society, that is when human knowledge will push forward. I remember very vividly, I had gone to this place where Tagore had set up his Shantiniketan in West Bengal. So when I went to this place, I read quite a few things that Tagore had done in his lifetime. He had even met Albert Einstein. Do you remember them? Yes. Both of them had met each other. Both of them had learned from each other. Tagore himself mentioned so many things, so many sources from whom he had learned, including common people. Great minds, they're always open-minded. Great minds, they have that humility, they have that humbleness. That is why there is a culture of learning in their life. Tagore was not only a guru. Tagore, more than being a guru, he was an eternal student. That is why his name, that is why his legacy is still so famous in every other part of the country, more so in West Bengal. And it is quite unfortunate that legacy of Rabindranath Tagore is not being taken care in West Bengal. When you look at the incident that happened in Kolkata in terms of that RG Medical College incident, yes, those kind of incidents happen in different parts of the country. Quite sad. We are violating, we are deviating from the path given to us by Tagore, Baswanna, Tiruvallavar, right? Eknath, Mirabai. Quite sad. Anyways, let's come back. Look at this question. When you come to the body of the answer, I usually tell my students, in the first body of the answer, you have to talk about some people who learned from everyone. Some examples, one example minimum to justify this comment, to justify this quote. Can you think of anyone who learned from everyone, the good from others, but also added their own uniqueness? Is it possible? Can you think of anyone? Don't say Swami Vivekananda, don't say Tagore. Fine, you can write Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore. You can mention about it. He learned from so many people, but he added his own uniqueness in his work. Which is that work which became famous? He was awarded Nobel Prize as well. Gitanjali. You will mention that point as well. Understanding? Now, you will write about another example which is contrary or opposite to it. Talk about one person, one leader, one thinker or reformer who did not learn from others, who was very arrogant. And that is why there was pain and suffering in their life. If you can think of such people, go ahead and write it. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, very good madam. You have to mention Muhammad bin Tughlaq, right? You have your Hitlers and everyone, nah? They did not listen to the advice. So in the first body of the answer, you are going to write an example of a person who learned from everyone, the good from others, and he implemented some unique things in his life as well. It can be a personality, it can be a country. Okay. Now come back and write in the present context. Are we learning from everyone these days? No. Why are we not learning from everyone these days? Because people have that arrogance. Hey, why should I learn from him? Am I right or am I wrong? Right. Other reasons, people look for brand value. If a person has that brand value, people usually are more inclined to learn from them. Understanding? That is why many people have become famous on YouTube. Marketing and all such kind of things. Nothing wrong with that. It is their personal preference. Okay. But usually when we look to learn from others, that arrogance comes into the picture. That brand value comes into the picture, preventing us. And at times we are even taught in our family, society and educational institutions that these are the people that you should learn from. You are being pushed in those attitude and emotions which makes you feel close-minded. Understanding? Stephen Hawking, why he became Stephen Hawking? When he was young, he used to have a dinner along with his family members. And they used to discuss during the dinner great many things. Everyone used to bring their own point of perspective on everything. Right? It could be from science, it could be from religion. That kind of healthy discussion was there. But these days, when you go back to home and you start having discussions, even though you might have a very credible opinion, all right, your family might not respect that opinion because it is coming from a source which they do not like for some reason or the other. Are you understanding my point? That is the thing. Right? And if you look at our education system, there is an inherent bias which also exists. You all have read your NCRTs. Am I right or am I wrong? You read a good amount of your northern culture, your western culture, your southern culture. But when you look at your eastern and northeastern culture, not many things are reflected in our books. Am I right or am I wrong? How will you learn then? Right? So you're going to mention the issues with our education system which is making us feel regressive. All right? Now come back. Now, in our society in the present time, there is something called as competition in each and every domain of our life. UPSC itself is a competition. Am I right or am I wrong? I am a teacher, right? At one point in time, I was a UPSC aspirant. I tell my students almost on an everyday basis what it is that they have to do so they don't become a failure like me. Society judges me as what? A failure. I don't hate society for that because I couldn't crack UPSC. It's fine, it's okay. I tell them, don't do this, don't do that. The mistakes that I committed. But what do my students do? They don't usually listen to me. The moment a rank holder comes and he says the same thing, book, pen, write it. They'll be like Gajani, writing it on their skin as well if they want. Right? That's the thing. Don't be like that. I remember there was a very famous Formula 1 driver. Okay? I am unable to recall his name. His name was Nicky. Nicky said that you learn a lot more from your failures than your success. Okay? People don't have that mentality anymore. That is why they're losing as well. That is why they're not learning from other sources in the present context. That point also you can write it. Understanding my point? For you to learn from others, in your mind from a very young day, curiosity, critical thinking should be imbibed. That does not happen in the present times. In the present times, you are taught you have to learn what is there in that book, toto. You have to learn by heart, rote learning. When you are taught all these things, where will you learn anything in a critical manner? Nothing will happen like that. Right? You will become like these race horses. Have you seen race horses? ನೋಡಿದ್ಯಾನ ಭಗವಂತ ಬೆಟ್ಟ ಹಾಕಿದ್ಯಾನ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ? When you see a race horse, the race horse on its left and right hand side will have this patches, will have this fences kind of a thing, right? Which will prevent it from looking at left or right. It only has to look at its goal post. That is okay for a race horse, but we are not race horses. We are human beings. We should be taught how to look at our left and right, up and down, wherever and whenever we want. That is when we will learn from other things. Am I right?
That also you can mention, because what they have asked in the present context. Okay. Learn from Sam Monekshaw, learn from Captain Manoj Pandey, learn if you want from any other major politician, thinkers, reformers and administrator as much as you want. But don't be an exact replica of them. Be your own self. Be, you can mention, not a problem, not a problem. All right. Because when you look at our constitution, right, Manjunath sir would have taught you, right? Lakshmikant, you would have studied. We have borrowed so many provisions from other countries. But is it just a cut, copy, paste? No. We have added our own uniqueness. That is why our constitution has survived for such a longer period when many other constitutions across the world have not survived. Am I right or am I wrong? So you will write why we are not absorbing, why we are not learning from everyone. What will be the major problem when we not learn from everyone? That culture of learning does not come. When culture of learning does not come, you will not utilize your potential. I, let us say, have a potential of 100%. I am not learning from others. There is no culture of learning in me. I will be utilizing just 10-15% of my potential at the end of the day. And that's bad, my friends. That's very bad. All right. So you will talk about it. Patience, yes, madam. You can write. Not a problem. Patience. Very good. See, you're a beginner, but still you're contributing. That's good. You're thinking. That is what ethics expects. Then you will write solutions. What is it that I have to do to overcome this in the present context? How will I encourage people to learn from others and to think for themselves and be themselves as well? Whatever challenges I have highlighted, what challenges that you highlighted, madam, patience and everything, you will give us solutions to tackle the challenge. That's it. So if I am writing in education system, all cultures are not reflected, then you will say all cultures should be reflected, including your northeastern culture. You will mention programs such as Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, which can be used to learn from each other cultures. Not long ago, we conducted something called as Tamil, Kashi Tamil Sangam. Confluence of two cultures. You can write about these things. You can talk about Nukkad Nataks, street plays. You can talk about how in our schools you can have debate, you can have drama, where we are enacting great thinker, reformers and administrator, cultures of other countries. Understanding my point? Cultures of other regions in our country. So we are learning. These days when you look at your schools and sometimes when they perform dances, you have seen small kids dancing for cabaret song. Pakkad mane pankaja ante. Right? Chikni chameli ante. You've seen those videos, no? I'm not saying students dancing to these songs are inherently bad. I'm not. If they want to dance, that is their personal choice and freedom. Okay. But it is that age where you inculcate in our students great amount of morality and understanding to think, to question, critical thinking. Right? So enacting good dramas, that too from other regions, from other cultures, so that others learn. It's very good. When I was in my school, I remember it was in 1999, right, when Kargil war happened. And in 2000, there was a drama which was enacted in our school. Very beautiful it was. It spoke about some of the people who had laid down their lives in the service of the country. I was very young back then, but still it struck a chord. It made me feel emotional at such a young and tender age. That helped me to develop a healthy spirit of patriotism in myself. When I was growing up, I had teachers who encouraged us to think, to question, that brought in us critical thinking. We had in our schools and colleges where they made us to go to libraries and read books. After reading that book, once we came back to our classroom, we were supposed to discuss what happened. We were supposed to write what we learned. Right? So these things should be revisited. Education is not just taking that first rank. Education is much more than that. So that you will be writing. In the conclusion, what will you write? As per you, what is the most important change or what is the most important reason why we should learn from others? Tell me. Why we should learn from others?
Knowledge ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಬ್ಬರಿಂದ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ. Source of knowledge is direct. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಂದ ಕಲಿತ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕಲಿತೀವಿ.
Right. When you learn from others, when you accumulate knowledge, good knowledge from all possible sources, the probability of you being happy in life increases multiple fold. That you can write. Not at all a problem. Okay. Like this, you have to analyze two more quotes. Again in the present context. Faith is of no avail in the absence of strength. Faith and strength both are essential to accomplish any great work. This was given by Sardar Patel. Right? In front of me, let us say there is this water bottle. Again, I'm going back to this water bottle because I'm a bit thirsty. Now, if I want to get that water bottle, I am a man of spirituality. I am religious. So, I do believe that if you sit for meditation, right, it improves your focus. I believe in all those kind of things. There are some people who believe that if you start meditating, you will get all these powers and you will be able to move things. That much of belief I don't have as of now. Okay. So if I want that water bottle from that place, even though I do believe that miracles might happen in faith, the much more better thing that I can do is just get up, go, get my water bottle. That's it. Understanding my point? I do have faith that India is a great country. India can be even greater. I do have that. The problem is this. If I'm not acting to make my country greater, my country will not be great. It's basically like saying knowledge without action is useless. Faith in itself is not enough. Faith demands action. That can be your political faith, that can be your religious faith, economic, social, whatever you want to call it as, that should be there. All your religions at the core, you take Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, every religion, if you look at the core of that religion, all of them say similar things: love, care and compassion. This love, care and compassion should not be there only in the belief, it should also be reciprocated in action. If there is a mismatch, that is when you will see all unhealthy, unfortunate tendencies in life. Am I making sense? Yes. That is when you will see communalism, that is when you will see radicalism, that is when you will see terrorism. Right? So keeping this in mind, you will write. Okay. Faith gives us knowledge, but that in itself is not enough until and unless that knowledge is translated into meaningful meaningful actions, right? Meaningful actions. That is when progress or any great work will be achieved, will be accomplished. This will be your introduction. Understanding my point? Then, in the body of the answer, one person who had that faith and at the same time who had that strength. Dashrath Manji was a guy, right, who lost his wife because he could not get his wife to the hospital in the right time because infrastructure was missing in that place. He lost his wife, but he had a faith in himself that he will do anything and everything possible to prevent similar pain and suffering to others. So that is why what he did, he took a hammer, he took a chisel and he carved a road through a mountain. Many people called him a madman, right? But he did not stop because he had that faith, and along Ram Mohan Roy, right? Swami Dayanand Saraswati, these people, Ramakrishna Parahamsa, they had faith and at the same time they believed in having that strength that can be translated into meaningful actions. Our constitution itself is not enough. The constitutional belief, when it is translated into action, that is when our country will become a country of beautiful minds, and great souls. If not, nothing much will happen. Am I right or am I wrong? So you will give one example like this. Another example where faith is there, but there was no strength, there was no action. Prior to Swachh Bharat mission, you had two more programs called as Total Sanitation Campaign and Nirbhal Bharat Abhiyan. Both of these programs had a faith of making our country more hygienic. But the problem was this. It was not translated into action. Understanding my point? It was not translated into actions. That is why we did not see so much of success. But when we started Swachh Bharat mission, we started the journey, not only with a strong belief or faith, but we translated that into actions. Our president started to clean. You saw our Prime Minister taking a broom and cleaning. You have seen our Prime Minister go to Chennai beach and collecting garbage items. Am I right or am I wrong? So you can write those things. You saw strength. You have seen in your news channels where a lady, she pledged her own gold jewelry to construct toilets so that there is hygiene. This is strength. Understanding my point? When Bhagat Singh told Inqilab Zindabad, right? What is Inqilab Zindabad? It means long live revolution. Now he had a faith in that revolution, but did he translate that faith into action as well? Absolutely. Even to this day, it has been so many years since your Bhagat Singh passed away. We all speak about Bhagat Singh, Gandhi, Ambedkar. We have faith in them, but the problem with us is in the present times, we have just faith. We have not translated that faith into actions. That is why there are n number of problems. Poverty, inequality, communalism. Am I right or am I wrong? Trolling, digital trolling, cyber bullying. You must have heard of all these kind of things. Rise of selfish love. Am I right? Greediness. These things. Your religion, they say, all religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Islam, Christianity, everyone. They tell you, treat others as you want to be treated yourself. If I want respect from you, I should give you the same respect. Am I right? If not, you're not going to respect me. But is that happening now? Faith being translated to strength? No, it's not happening. Why it is not happening? Because we are cowards. You know what is cowards? Enantar cowards ke Bhagwanta. Heditana. Am I right? Yes, we are cowards. We lack courage. What is the second thing? We have become way too much selfish. Why should I act for others? I will focus on myself. That is second. The third thing, we have rationalized. What will happen to my country if only I do actions and all others are corrupt? So let me also become corrupt, no? Right? WhatsApp universities, fake news. Yes, madam, you can write that. Not at all a problem. Our faith itself is wrong. Is it not? We are learning from all these fake news which tells us superficial, surface level teachings which are not true. Good, you can write it. How to change it, how to bring back, right? Where we complement our faith with strength. That you have to write. And in the conclusion, you will write this. Belief in Constitution is not enough for civil servants. They should reflect that faith in their actions. That is when bureaucracy will fulfill the steel frame responsibility envisioned by Sardar Patel. He was the one who said bureaucracy is like a steel frame, right? That is what you can use. All right. Same thing you will do with your other question. In law, a man is guilty when he violates the right of others. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. This is from your Immanuel Kant, who is a famous deontological thinker. Right? Your Immanuel Kant says, in law, if I commit a mistake, and there is a law which punishes me, there is a law which is there in existence at that point in time, and as per that law, I am wrong. Okay. Here I have committed an act and that law has declared me as a criminal. But your Immanuel Kant says, forget a law. In ethics, even if you think bad, then you are committing a mistake. Understanding my point? Even if you have not done an act, but you're just thinking something wrong, of harming others, of wishing harm to others, then it is wrong. Then it is a crime. Am I right or am I wrong? We live in a world where people these days, they are thinking so many negative things about others. Am I right or am I wrong? The thought process itself is wrong. He is pronouncing a man guilty not because he is violating the right of others in terms of their actions as per law. He is calling the person as a guilty if he thinks of doing so. Understanding? This is even more difficult. You remember our Gandhi in non-cooperation movement, there was an incident that happened, very famous incident that Bhagwanta likes very much. What is that incident? Chauri Chaura incident. When that incident happened, Gandhi suspended non-cooperation movement because for Gandhi, when common people thought of independence, there were two things that they had to think, and based on these two things only they had to carry forward their independence struggle. What were these two things? Non-violence and satyagraha. If you did any activity which violated non-violence and satyagraha, if you thought anything other than non-violence and satyagraha, you were a mistake. You made a mistake. Following me? So you will go ahead and you will write just like other two codes. I am not going to explain way too much on it. Okay, I am going to go through other questions. Look at this one. The concept of just and unjust is contextual, right? These questions I will not be able to discuss in a detailed manner because constraints of time, but I am going to give you a brief picture, the most important, all of you, all right? Madam, is that okay? Good. Look at this question now. The concept of just and unjust is contextual. Understanding my point? It's contextual. What was just a year back may turn out to be unjust in today's context. Full stop. Changing context should be constantly under scrutiny to prevent miscarriage of justice. Examine the above statement with suitable examples. Was untouchability just couple of decades ago, hundreds of years ago? Was untouchability just? People believed it was just untouchability. Am I right or am I wrong? But when we got independence, what did we say? Untouchability is just or unjust? Unjust. Triple talaq was considered as just by some people in the society, right? But as circumstances changed, Supreme Court pronounced a verdict that it was unjust. Same goes with your Sabrimala. Understanding my point? Same goes with your section 377. Section 498A. Good, good. Right? When we decriminalized consensual homosexual sex, we are bringing some changes. Yes or no? Couple of decades ago, women were not given command roles. That permanent commission of women in armed forces was not existing. But now, not long ago, Supreme Court allowed women to be given even command role. Are you all understanding my point? So this question is based on a very beautiful topic called as subjectivism, objectivism. It is based on another topic called as universalism and relativism. Okay? There are certain concepts, moral concepts, which remain the same at all time. These are called as universal concepts. If you take any universal values, honesty, courage, love, care and compassion, they have remained the same. Thousands of years ago, these values existed. Then there are something called as relative. These relative, they change based on time, based on place, based on circumstances as well. Are you all understanding my point? At one point in time, homosexuality was looked at as if it was a problem. Many people were subjected to hormonal therapy. But these days,
homosexuality is not only accepted, it is also given a legal status. Even homosexuals are allowed to get married in different parts of the world. And if you remember carefully, there was a case in front of the Supreme Court in terms of marriage vis-a-vis homosexuals. Remember that? Yes. That is what this question is asking you. The concept of just and unjust is contextual. What was just a year back may turn out, just a year back may turn out to be unjust in today's context. Changing context should be constantly under scrutiny. If you look at abortion, all right, there was a very famous case in America called as Roe versus Wade, which was overturned not long ago. Reproductive rights. There are countries which allow euthanasia. Yes or no? In our country, is euthanasia allowed? Yes, only passive euthanasia is allowed, not active. There are countries where active is also allowed. Understanding my point? When you are deciding the just or unjustness of any action, you have to keep in mind the changing context, the changing circumstances to prevent any miscarriage of justice. Understanding my point? This is what you're going to write. So how will I examine the changing context? I will keep in mind how much of knowledge I have undertaken or I have learnt about it. Understanding? I had various psychological studies which told homosexuality is a part and parcel of life. Understanding my point? There were many studies which were conducted. So I learned from it. I learned there are multiple Islamic countries which have banned triple talaq themselves. Understanding my point? Yes. When we made changes in the adultery law, there also we had studies. When we made changes in Dowry Act, there were studies, there were reasoning. So this is what you are going to write. Understanding my point? So when you are keeping in mind the justness or unjustness of an action and you are changing it as per the context, what are the various parameters you have to keep in mind? First parameter is knowledge. Second parameter is technology. You remember your Puttaswamy judgment? Right. We made right to privacy as part of which fundamental right? 21. Your UPSC has also asked prelims question based on that, if I am not wrong. So technology. Culture of people, that is also you're going to keep in mind when you are going to go ahead and pronounce verdicts. You're all, yeah.
Culture, this one, I can go at the ವಿಷಯದ fact. First, birthday ವಿಷಯದ first ಅದು legal ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ birthday ಕಾಯ್ದೆ ಬಂದು illegal ಆಯ್ತು. ಇದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ culture ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು.
Yeah, you can, not a problem. Culture is also fine. Okay. Other than that, you can write your constitutional as well. Because if you look at our constitution, is it very rigid? Is it very flexible or is it balanced? It is balanced. Understanding my point? So that can also be a parameter which will help us in terms of preventing any miscarriage of justice when we keep in mind changing context. Are you all understanding my point? That is the thing. There are so many instances where your Supreme Court has given beautiful doctrines, doctrine of basic structure, you remember? Yes, they have told even right to housing, right to clean air. They're all part and parcel of Article 21. Am I right or am I wrong? To prevent any miscarriage of justice. Justice should not only be in words, it should also be in actions. Justice should be analyzed keeping in mind the changing time and circumstances. That is what they're talking about. Examine the above statement with suitable examples. Have I given you arguments? Have I given you examples here? Right. I'm going to move on. Mindless addiction to form, ignoring the substance of the matter. Can anyone open 2022 paper quickly? Quickly. On their mobile. 2022 ethics paper. Okay. 2022 first question. Can you tell me what was the first question, madam? Right. 2022 ethics GS4 paper first question.
Is it about a public servant?
Periphery, yeah. I understood. If you look, that is the first question only, na? Section A. Yes. So if you look at 2022 ka question paper, ethics question paper, my friends, they have asked a question. Wisdom lies in knowing what is important. A public servant who has that, he or she will focus on the core rather than focusing on the periphery, the surface level. Understanding? But many public servants, they don't have that wisdom. So what do? They do not focus on the core, but rather they focus on the periphery. And because of this, there is a great amount of injustice which is created. That is what is asked in your 2022 ka question paper, first question in your section A. And if you look at this question, mindless action to form, ignoring the substance of the matter, results in rendering of injustice. A perceptive civil servant is one who ignores such literalness and carries out true intent. Examine the above statement with suitable illustrations. Is it similar or is it entirely different to what they have asked in 2022? It is exactly similar. The only thing is they have changed the words. Understanding my point? A perceptive civil servant is who? A perceptive civil servant is one who has the wisdom to focus on the core rather on the literal meaning of that law, rules or regulations. When you focus on the literal meaning of laws, rules and regulations, you are completely neglecting the core spirit behind that law. And this results in injustice. That is why a public servant should have wisdom to know what is the core, what is the periphery. If they do not have, there will be injustice. 2022 they had asked a question. 2024 also they have asked a similar question on a similar theme, only words have changed. Old wine in a new bottle. There is a saying in English. In ethics paper, it is true almost every other year. Okay. Examine the above statement with suitable illustrations. So how will we talk about, let us say, a civil servant we think about, okay, who has focused not on the literalness, but rather focused on the intent, rather focused on the core value behind any law, rules or regulations. Can you think of any person like that? I can think of Kiran Bedi. Now Kiran Bedi, she was an IPS officer, you all know her very well. When she was an IPS officer, she was made head of a prison. Now many people, they look at prison and they look at its literal meaning. Prison is what? You are shackling people. They look at it from a punitive perspective, punishing perspective. But she was a civil servant who has that wisdom. She not only focused on punishing them, but more importantly than that, she focused on rehabilitating them. She gave these prisoners good education. She gave these prisoners access to good skills. So that after these prisoners leave this prison and they go out, they have some education, they have some skills. Okay? So as to lead a good life away from all these criminal activities. This is what a civil servant should have. Am I right? Yes. I have been to this RTO, and most of the people who are working in RTO, they are quite arrogant in nature. Understanding? I remember once being to RTO and I had given all these documents. The documents, some of them were not in order. The way they spoke to me was a bit harsh, but fine. I just apologized and I gave the right documents next time around. But the next time around when I went, I saw this very old guy. Okay, he wanted to get a license because he wanted to drive. He was on the older side, not way too old, but he was on the older side. His documents were not in order and the concerned RTO officer just threw the paper. All right. Yes,
You are being appointed there to look whether the documents are in order and to ask for the right documents. Nothing wrong. But you should also conduct your activities in a humane way, my friend. When he threw the paper, I felt very sad for that older guy. When I went ahead and asked him, he told me that he was an illiterate. So whatever little help that he could get from others, he used that help and he had filled the form. He did not know what more was required. I wished that government servant had taken few more minutes and spoke to him in a humane manner. That was not there. He just threw it away. Was it not injustice? Absolutely so. That is the thing. You have seen many civil servants denying credible request, taking the excuse of law. I am filing an RTI. Understanding my point? But these people are not honoring my RTI request because they are afraid that this RTI request might get them in trouble or their organization in trouble. In this process, are they forgetting the true intent of RTI altogether? Yes, that is the thing. That also you can write. Understanding? A civil servant who has that wisdom will focus on that intent, will not focus on the literalness. Sometimes you have studied in your newspaper, RTI requests are not honored by the organization, giving excuses of National Security, Official Secrets Act. Do you remember that? It is focusing on the literalness. Right? I remember a court case where a judge had given an instruction to the government organization to take a decision as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Right? The honorable judge at that point in time had not mentioned what that as soon as possible is. Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 1 year? He had not mentioned it. And the government organization, they just fixated on this as soon as possible and they pulled their leg as much as possible. It went on for years together. Here government servants are doing what? Are they focusing on the intent or are they focusing on the literalness? Literalness. That is when injustice will happen, na? That is the thing.
Sometimes also the opposition, sometimes constitution mention as soon as ಅಂದ್ರೆ opposition party member opposition leader mention ಮಾಡಬೇಕು good term ಅಲ್ಲಿ opposition leader ನೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಸರ್ ಇದು mention ಮಾಡಬಹುದು.
Yeah, you can talk about it. See, sometimes you see in our parliament that if a party does not have the numbers to appoint an opposition leader, right? Then we have seen in our past where that opposition leader itself was not there. Deputy Speaker was also not there. Getting my point? Of Lok Sabha, yes. We are focusing on the literalness way too much rather than focusing on the intent. Understanding? So all these things you can mention, but you have to mention keeping in mind civil servants. Civil servants, all right? Please keep that in mind. If there are any civil servants that you can think of, IAS, IPS, who have focused on the true intent, you can talk about it. There was a cabinet secretary called as Parameshwaran Iyer who got into a pit himself and cleaned the garbage in that pit without wearing gloves and everything to show to the people how sustainable it is, how it does not pose any health related side effects to them. We need IAS, IPS officers like that. You have seen some IAS officers in Kerala during the rehabilitation efforts, they themselves used to carry their sacks of rice, right? Civil servants who focus on the intent. Many civil servants, they look at their IAS, IPS jobs and they focus on the VVIP culture mentality. Am I right or am I wrong? A civil servant at the end of the day should be a humble servant leader. That is the intent of civil service. Humble servant leader. What is the purpose of a servant? To serve. When you become IAS and IPS, the true intent behind IAS and IPS is serving people in a humble way, not in an arrogant way. A perceptive, a civil servant having wisdom will have all these things. He will not focus on the literalness. Understanding my point? Yes. Come back here.
So we can conclusion mention ಯಾವ ಧರ್ಮ ಯಾವ ಕಾನೂನು ಕಾನೂನು ಮಾನವೀಯತೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾನವೀಯತೆಯ ಮಿಗಿಲು.
Yeah, you can talk about how humanity, right, is important and should be the guide in all our actions, including for civil servants in their governance. You can mention that, or else you just mention your 2022 ka question. A civil servant should have the necessary wisdom, okay, to choose the core intent in all of his or her actions, like this. Like this. You have other questions. Code of ethics and code of conduct are the sources of guidance in public administration. Full stop. There is code of conduct already in operation where code of ethics is not yet put in place. Suggest a suitable model for code of ethics to maintain, they have mentioned what all values: integrity, probity, transparency in governance. Understanding? So you have to suggest a code of ethics. It should have rules. It should have principles which will uphold integrity, which will uphold probity, which will uphold transparency. So what will you write? If I as a civil servant have to uphold integrity, will I go for accepting gifts from others or will I not accept gifts? Not accept. Like this you are going to mention. If I have to maintain transparency, I should declare my assets and that of my dear family members willingly. Am I right or am I wrong? Sorry? Right. So you will write all these things. Are you all understanding my point? So they're just asking you to mention some of these principles that you can use to maintain integrity, probity as well as transparency. You will mention some 7 to 8 principles. And not long ago, actually quite long ago, we had a public service bill that we wanted to bring, which we could not bring. There were some very beautiful principles over there also which wanted to uphold integrity, probity and transparency in our governance framework. You can mention all these things in your answers. Not at all a problem. Alright? Go back home and look at public service bill. If you do not have any idea of public service bill, do that. In case if you have, take few principles from there on and tell them how you can maintain integrity, probity and transparency in governance. Probity, how will I maintain probity in management of your funds? I will use technology, okay, so that no funds is misallocated in any way. Understanding my point? I will bring customer grievance readdressal mechanism so that if there is any problem, I can try to find a solution to it at the earliest possible manner. Understanding my point? You will mention few of these things which you think should be included in the code of ethics to maintain these 3 values: integrity, probity as well as transparency. Why this code of ethics is required? When I include code of ethics in my governance system, then my governance system will become good governance and more importantly, it will become ethical governance. When only code of conduct is there, all right, code of conduct will give you specific measures in specific instances. Code of ethics will give you a general guidance on how to maintain this integrity, probity and transparency in all domains. Understanding my point? So when I include code of ethics, my governance will become good governance and more importantly, it will become ethical governance. This is what you're going to write. Okay? Like this. Look at the next question. The soul of the new law, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, is justice, equality and impartiality. Based on Indian culture and ethos. Discuss this in the light of major shift from a doctrine of punishment to justice in present judicial system. This I want to discuss a bit more deeply because many people have come back to me and said, so this was difficult. Okay, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. All right. Now come back. We recently shifted to Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, right? So what will I write in introduction? I will write few things about our culture, cultural ethos. Our cultural ethos. Indian cultural ethos. Okay. Now in the discussion that we have had so far,
we have mentioned Vasudeva Kutumbakam, we have mentioned your Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. You all remember? Yes. In our Indian cultural ethos, there is a very ideal concept called as Rama Rajya. Right? Now this Rama Rajya does not envision going back to a Hindu Rajya. No. This Rama Rajya envisions a society where there is holistic development of everyone, where all their rights are upheld. Not just the rights of few people, everyone, including criminals, including victims of those who are part of your justice process. Are you all understanding my point? So you will mention something like this. Indian cultural ethos has always emphasized on an ideal utopian concept called Rama Rajya, which focuses on the holistic development of every stakeholder involved in the country, based on a strong foundation of moral principles and regulations. You will write it. Next, in the body of the answer, what are you supposed to write? Remember, our Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, it talks about restorative justice. Rather than just focusing on punishment, it focuses on restorative. It means rehabilitating your criminals. Sometimes crimes are committed by those people who might be lacking awareness. Right? You cannot punish them for the entirety of their life. You have to punish them proportionately for the crime that they have committed. And once they come out of that jail, they should be rehabilitated in such a way that they do not go back to that criminal world. Rather, they become good citizens. Restorative justice, rehabilitative justice. Your Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita focuses on that. This restorative, this rehabilitative justice is based on one very important value that your UPSC has asked questions on. That is forgiveness. And if you open your Bhagavad Gita, I have a habit of reading Bhagavad Gita, okay? Right? If you have a habit of reading Bhagavad Gita, there they have mentioned even an enemy should be afforded forgiveness and should be given an opportunity to change. Understanding my point? Am I connecting restorative or rehabilitative justice with what is there in our Indian cultural ethos? That is the thing. So you will start talking about it. What is the other thing? Our Indian culture, it focuses on victim as well. Following my point? What does this mean? Your Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, it focuses on not only giving them justice, but also psychological counseling wherever required. Following my point? And hand holding them or providing compensation for them wherever required. Understanding my point? Compensation. Right? And in my classes, art and culture classes, and also in ethics classes, I used to talk about something called as Sibi Jataka. Okay? You would have heard a story about a king, right? Who got two birds coming to him. One was an eagle, okay? Another one was a small pigeon. The eagle wanted to eat the pigeon. The pigeon came to king and asked for his protection. The eagle told to the king, "King, that is my food, that is my lunch, and you're taking it away from me. That is not right, that is not good." Okay. Now the king is confused. What to do? Should I save the pigeon or should I save the eagle? So what the king does is, whatever was the weight of that pigeon, he takes that equivalent amount of flesh from his own body and he gives it. Understanding my point? Compensation. Am I linking it with our culture? Buddhism? Yes. In your Buddhism, in your Jainism, you have multiple teachings. Okay? In your Buddhism,
you have something called as Ashtamarga. Okay. Then in your Mahavira, Jainism, you have three important teachings. Right belief, three Ratna. Good. Right belief, right knowledge, right conduct. Right? Your Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, when they have brought provisions in terms of whistleblower protection, okay, witness protection, in terms of rehabilitative of restorative justice, in terms of compensation for victims, psychological support for victims, right? Trying to provide justice in a timely manner. You can link it with all these cultural ethos that we have seen in our country since n number of years. Getting my point? Is this question difficult? It's not difficult. It only demands two things. One, you have to know what are the main features of BNS. Second, you have to know how to connect it with our cultural ethos. If you know this, more than enough. If you don't know this, then it becomes problematic. Alright? So how will I give a conclusion for this? Here I will bring Chanakya's Arthashastra. Chanakya's Arthashastra writes, Yoga Shema is the prime duty of the king towards his subjects. Right? Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita tries to ensure this Yoga Shema of every stakeholder involved for upholding justice. Upholding justice that meets Indian cultural and moral standards. Highest Indian cultural and moral standards. Like this, you can give a conclusion. Devam Piya Piyadasi. Right? That is there. Yes, you can. You can. Not a problem at all. Okay. This would be better. Sorry. Come back. Okay. Look at other question now. Every year, my friends, if you look at 2022 or 2023 also, there will be some or the other question linked to code of conduct or code of ethics, either in a direct or an indirect way. So you can preempt what is going to be there in your 2025 question paper as well. So please start preparing as soon as possible. Don't miss it. Okay. Look at your last question. Yes. Now remember, when I discussed features of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and I also mentioned Indian cultural ethos, here you have to link it to what? They've given two values, equality and impartiality. Does Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita make any distinctions between poor and rich? No, na, upper caste and lower caste. One religion to another religion? No. How will I link it to your Indian culture, sir? You might have a question. When our new parliament building was inaugurated, we installed something called a Sengol. Do you remember that? Where was this Sengol from? From which culture? Tamilian culture. Yes. Every culture that exists in India has a rich history, including Tamilian culture. So when you look at that Sengol, even the king used to bend his knee in front of that Sengol. That Sengol represented that justice, and the king was supposed to uphold that justice, was supposed to showcase devotion, his sincerity towards justice. Your Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita also tries to do the same thing by looking at everyone in such equal manner. Understanding my point? It is not taking any partiality view or biased view towards certain people. Following me? So you have to include these two terms. You have to write all this Indian cultural ethos and then go forward. Like this, you have your last question. Indian culture and value system, an equal opportunity has been provided irrespective of gender identity. Okay, Indian culture and value system, an equal opportunity has been provided for gender identity. Now here look at this. When they are saying gender identity, have they mentioned just male and female, or can it be multiple genders? Multiples. You remember Even in Mahabharata, you have a character called as Shikandi. Who does that Shikandi fight? Bhishma, if I'm not wrong, right? You have your Arjuna, who also had to spend 1 year of his life as a transgender, right? Indian culture and value system and equal opportunity has been provided irrespective of gender identity. If you go,
Mention also
Mallikafur, yes, not a problem. When we talk about your early Vedic period, you have learned, there was a question in your art and culture this year. In your early Vedic period, man and woman had similar rights in most of the situations. Are you all understanding the point? Even a woman was allowed to read Vedas. Those who were allowed to read Vedas, they were called as Brahmavadinis. I gave you examples of few Brahmavadinis in our past discussions as well. So you are going to justify that. Alright? But what happened in our Indian society, Indian culture, we forgot all these core values and we moved towards a situation where we saw women constrained within four walls of the household. Am I right or am I wrong? Absolutely. The number of women in public service has been steadily increasing over the years. Labor force participation rate is increasing. But is it increasing to a very adequate level as we want, or is it still inadequate? Still inadequate. Examine the gender specific challenges faced by female public servants and suggest suitable measures. Any UPSC paper you take, they will give you a situation and they will ask you what are the reasons for this situation existing and what should be the solution. They will say in public service, motivation is missing in public servants. What are the reasons? What should be the solution? So whatever topic you are reading, whatever topic you are studying, you should keep in mind the reasons for that situation and also solutions. Let us say you are reading a topic where humility is not there in our public servants. What are the reasons why humility is missing? What solution we want? In our public service, women face a lot of issues. What are the reasons for it? What could be the solutions? The reason is we do not have that equality mindset, that equality attitude. We still consider ourselves patriarchal in some of the instances. Am I right? So you have to mention that attitude, because if you look at your ethics syllabus, what do you have the key term as? Attitude. The second thing, that social awareness, that empathy for the challenges faced by women is not there. Even women don't have social awareness and empathy for their own issues which is happening. And men themselves do not have in most of the situations. When these kind of things happen, what will be there? Gender specific challenges will be there. Am I right? They're not being recruited. If they're being recruited, they're not being given the good, interesting, difficult challenges. Right? Because people lack that belief in women. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes. That justice mentality, that value system is missing in our public service. The gender sensitivity is not there in our public service. That is why they face specific gender challenges in our system. For all these things, you should give a solution, suitable solutions where you not only address these challenges but also maintain high standards of probity. How will you go about it? Our government has taken some measures like installing she box and everything. Do you remember? Vishaka guidelines. Do you remember? Yes. If you look at your parliament, we will be going for 33% reservation for women in a very good amount of, reasonable amount of time in the future. You will talk about it. You will talk about how we can have a public service where the gender ratio is maintained. All these things. Unfortunately, I cannot go much more deeper into it. Okay? But I hope you get how you should go ahead and answer the question. In your Indian culture and ethos, there is an equal opportunity provided irrespective of gender identity. In your introduction, you will write about your Rig Vedic times and how in Ramayana you see women having rights, even transgenders having rights. Understanding my point? Usually I say all these things in my classes, right? When you see transgenders during this time, they will ask money from you. Sometimes they ask very in a humble manner, sometimes they force you. After they have taken money, what will they do? They will bless you. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes. So I tell this story in my classes. Rama, when he left Ayodhya, everyone from Ayodhya had come to wish him good luck, to see him go off. Everyone. Birds, animals, human beings, men, women, transgenders. Your Rama, when he saw all of them, he was very, very happy. He was also sad. But he addresses each and every one of them. Okay, man, woman, birds and animals, you go back home. I'll be back home soon, don't worry. I am thankful for all your wishes. I'm thankful for all your devotion. He forgets to mention one of them, one community. Which are those community? Transgenders. Rama comes back from his Vanavasa. When he comes back from his Vanavasa, he sees all these transgenders outside Ayodhya premises. They have not gone inside. Why have they not gone inside? Because Rama, when he left Ayodhya, he did not address him. So they kept on waiting for Rama to come back. And they spent all their time outside Ayodhya premises. Rama saw this and he was very sad. And at the same time, he was taken back by their sincerity and devotion. That is when Rama gave them a boon. So whenever anyone is going for a good activity, or you bless them out of your pure, sincere heart, their wishes will come true. This was the boon which was given to them, and this is the boon that many transgenders have used to ask money, to bless. That is what you see happening in our cities these days, no? Yes. So if I go much deeper, I can take things from your Mahabharata, I can take things from your other Indian cultural systems. But you get my point. So your introduction, you are going to mention this. Indian culture and ethos have always had a healthy respect for all gender identities. For instance, transgenders, mention Ramayana, Mahabharata. For women, mention your early Vedic period. Understanding? Come to the body part of the answer, mention how our labor force participation rate is increasing. Female labor force participation. But it is still inadequate because they face gender specific challenges. You will start writing what are these various challenges. Do you remember Me Too movement? It exists. There are many governments which have not set up committees to investigate sexual harassment. Understanding my point? The gender sensitivity is also not there. Understanding my point? So you will mention all these things and suitable measures. In suitable measures, you will mention what government has already taken, what we could take more. Okay? Like this. Now last question. Look at Mission Karmayogi is aiming for maintaining a very high standard of conduct and behavior to ensure efficiency for serving citizens and in turn developing oneself. How will this scheme empower the civil servants in enhancing productive efficiency and delivering the services at the grassroots level? In my classes, many a times I have mentioned Mission Karmayogi. You would have studied this in your GS2 as well. Have you? Okay. Look at this one here. I am supposed to write an introduction. Many a times I see this advice given by people. Even I have given this advice. I'm not going to deny it. They tell you to have introduction and conclusion ready for some topics. Am I right? But the problem is this. How much of preemptive introduction and conclusion you can write? You cannot completely figure out what your question paper is going to be in the future days. So what you have to develop is, the moment you see a question, your introduction and conclusion should come into the picture without any problem. That kind of ability you should develop. Understanding my point? So if you look at this question and you do not have a preemptive introduction, what will you do? Just look at the name, Karmayogi. Karma means what? Work, activities, actions. Yogi means what? Someone who pursues the truth through activities. Someone who pursues happiness through activities in in a blue moon manner or consistently? Consistently. Mission Karmayogi envisages our public servants to look at their activities, their duties, and perform them in a consistent manner to uphold the highest ideals of constitutional ethos. That is it. Nothing more than that. Following my point? The moment you see a question, you should have the ability to come with an introduction then and there itself. That will come to you when you have a good understanding of the concepts. That will come to you when you have, what else? That will come to you when you have a good understanding of the concept. That will come to you when you have practiced extensively. Two things are very important. Next, come to the body of the answer. Features of Mission Karmayogi. Okay, features of Mission Karmayogi. Listen to me carefully. In your Mission Karmayogi, they have spoken about continuous monitoring and evaluation. Understanding my point? Where I am continuously monitoring and evaluating your actions, your activities. Am I increasing efficiency or am I decreasing efficiency? Increasing it. Here in your Mission Karmayogi, we have something called as I Got app. I Got, G-O-T. In this I Got app, you have various curriculum that teaches you to deal with emerging challenges. Is this going to increase your efficiency at the grassroots level? Absolutely so. You're going to write it. Your Mission Karmayogi, it gives you a blueprint of those competency. Competency means what? Skills, abilities that you have to have in yourself. This skill and ability can be your cognitive skill. It can also be your moral competency, moral values. When your Mission Karmayogi is teaching you both, you can meet your goals much more easily. And when they are making plans, they are making plans in such a way where it is not top to bottom planning, but rather it is bottom to up. They are making specific plans for an officer. If madam is very good with cognitive, but your moral competency is a bit weaker, they will focus on that. If his moral competency is very good, but his cognitive competency is not that good, they will focus on that. Such kind of planning framework they have in Mission Karmayogi. Is this a customized plan or is this enforced from a top to bottom? What do you think? Customized to your needs. This will also help. You can write that. Your Mission Karmayogi, it also tells that training that public organizations have to collaborate with all these famous national and international organizations to find solutions to the existing problems in our country. Imagine I'm an IAS officer, I'm working in Rural Development Ministry, I'm collaborating with another famous rural development based college, let us say TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I'm learning from them. Okay, will it make me a much better officer? Will it make me a much better Karmayogi? Absolutely. So you take 5 features of Mission Karmayogi, right? The most 5 important features, and then you can connect it to how it focuses on improving the conduct and behavior. If you look at this behavior, all right, if you look at that behavior, we have a dedicated component in Mission Karmayogi where they have mentioned what are the behaviors that are expected out of a civil servant. This also they have done. Okay, a very beautiful program designed by your Indian government. So take the features, connected how they're trying to improve our conduct and behavior. They're focusing on the attitude, they're focusing on the emotional intelligence, values that are required to make this Karmayogi. Following my point? And what will you write in the conclusion? Mission Karmayogi will play a crucial part in realizing the dreams of Vikshit Bharat and other objectives like Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. That is it. So your section A is done, right? The first few questions, I did it in a detailed manner, how your intro, body, conclusion should be there. In the next few questions, I've discussed the essence of the question. But at the same time when I was discussing, I also told you what should be your intro, what should be your conclusion. Understanding? Ideally, I would have wanted few more minutes to discuss few case studies, if not all of them. Okay, but I don't think I have that time. We will have one more session where we will discuss case studies in a detailed manner. Understanding my point? Okay, if you have any doubts, please do ask. Yeah. You can use Panchatantra stories, not a problem. You can use Raja Harishchandra, not a problem. For Raja Harishchandra, what was more important in his life, madam? Truth, right? Yes, that is the thing. Raja Harishchandra, there was a question here. Immanuel Kant quote. They said, in a law, you are guilty if you commit a crime. Your Immanuel Kant says, you are guilty if you think. Raja Harishchandra, initially when he got punished, he did something wrong. But once he started going through the tough process, he did not think of doing something wrong. That is the thing. You can write. Karna also you can write. But my one request to you is this. Every answer should not have a mythological example. Right? Use them sparingly. As much as possible in your answers, they have given in your syllabus teachings from the lives of great leaders. Okay, mention great leaders. Then administrators, IAS, IPS, Indian Foreign Service. Okay, then reformers. It can be a male reformer, it can be a female, it can be from within India, outside India. So if I write compassion, you can talk about Mother Teresa if you want. Okay, then who are the other female reformers who have come across in a very compassionate way? We have already mentioned Florence Nightingale, na? Yes, when you look at reformers, one lady who comes to my mind is Sindhu Tai. She was in Maharashtra. She herself was thrown away by her family along with her 3 children. She used to beg in the railway stations. Somehow she managed to get a job, but when she was about to leave the railway station, she sees all these orphan kids and she feels very sorry for them. Right? So she starts an orphanage. Sindhu Tai. Okay? So she was in a way a reformer only. She dedicated her life to taking care of all these orphan kids who did not have anywhere else to go. Some of these orphan kids, they did their education in great colleges in India, in the world. One of them got doctorate by doing a research on Sindhu Tai as well. So you can mention all these things, not a problem. Savitri Bai Phule, yes, your UPSC itself has asked a question on Savitri Bai Phule not long ago. Okay, so you can, not at all a problem.
I can mention in Karmayogi Kannada
Kaikave Kailasa. You will mention that in the bracket, you will write work is worship. Okay, and when you are mentioning all these things, just make it a point that you are giving diverse examples. Not everything should be from Karnataka. If you can think of some Kabir's Doha, that also you can write. Kabir has written a very beautiful Doha where he says, don't be so proud, human being, because of your high mansion, because one day you too will lie beneath the dirt, okay, earth. So he's saying, don't be arrogant, don't be materialistic. Many people have this pride, many people have this ego. Hey, I come from this background, hey, I have so much of money, hey, I'm a government servant. What will I do if you have all these things? It doesn't matter to me much. Am I right? Don't have that pride. Madi madam, Padma Awards ke prati varsha irtare, right? There are some great doctors. Yes. There are some great doctors who have been treating people throughout entirety of their life for just 20 rupees. Right? They have not taken much money at all. You can mention about them. You have a guy called as Hajjabba from Karnataka, right? Who won Padma Award because he used to carry this big basket on top of his head and sell your oranges and mosambis, as you said. And the money that he got from that, he used it to build schools because he himself did not have that. Look at these great people. They not only believed in it, but they acted on it. Many people think peace is absence of war. No. Peace is presence of justice. Justice in every which way possible. Hajjabba did not want any other child to have similar pain and suffering that he witnessed. So he did that. You can. Not at all a problem. Okay, ethics is a beautiful subject. I'm saying this not because I'm teaching it, because I genuinely believe in it. Alright? If you have any doubts other than this, always feel free to come and contact me. Not at all a problem. I've already given you my Telegram ID. We will have another session for your case studies discussion very soon. Okay? Thank you. That this time I will make sure they will intimate you. Probably on Monday, I guess. Okay? We will intimate you. I don't think you had any intimation as of now for this class. There was no intimation, right? Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you all YouTube viewers for your patience.